with every lap he cuts, with every weekend that goes by, he's getting more comfortable, more confident in MotoGP, in a class where he still feels like he's racing with very little to lose. But people are now very much taking notice of Ferdinand again. We're going to lead to the second round. This could be a real opportunity, although, of course, he will be a little bit short of weather mileage in MotoGP. Big day, massive day, biggest day of the season for Quartararo and Zarco, but also outdoor strange teams in the GP World Championship, of course, with referencing Red Bull KTM Tech 3, who once again had Maverick Vinales fighting at the sharp end stiff place yesterday. I thought Maverick was his first sprint top 6 in 18 rounds since Assen last year, so what was in weight. So what could Maverick do? He believes he's got the pace to fight for the podium once again. So let's get some thoughts from Tech 3 was Nico Goyon, who joins Jack. Yeah, he does indeed. Good morning, Nico. Another really positive weekend. I said to Hervé yesterday on the grid, Qatar, Jerez, now Le Mans, 3 very different tracks, but at all 3, Maverick has shown that he's right there and able to fight at the front. What's possible later today? Yeah, it's true. He's in great shape at the moment. As I said, since Argentina, to be fair, we felt something was happening. And no, basically he's happy with the bike. He has no big complaint. Just more thing that we try to adjust. This weekend still perfect when I think here is 20. Big is for unit what and he had on the we know the weather is again Kedja. It's 13 and the clinics up now. Bring big events. But you know what is a challenge for everyone, but for you guys in particular, having 2 riders without six. Not somebody who's available, but to me, that was spot on being it is my the experience. Barricade through the skills in the rating. So no, I think given the position, our bike is good. With all the KTM is performing quite good in the wet. So I think believe that in these conditions we have some good chance. Right now, what does the forecast say? Well, what can we expect? At the moment, the forecast is following more or less what we saw. It's more rain in the morning, then drying, and already cutting soft, saying to look down, so interesting to foil. Absolutely, well, good to us. Terrible for you. Good luck, Nico. I'm stopped. For sure. Good luck today. Thank you. Yeah, as long as we do get a great show, rain or shine, we don't really mind. Well, we'll just listen to Nico go and talk in the chat. There's a couple of run-offs for there for Shoham Zarco outbreaking himself going into turn 9. And Pecco Bagnaia just committed through La Chapelle. And then he had to just run slightly. Well, we had a crash, did we? Tip off as well. Good Trackhouse Racing. He's Wild Fernandez, he didn't really matter. Looks like he was just shedding arrow as he powered up the start pretty straight. So there you go, that the locals, speaking of going being one of them, expect, Jack, tucking in the front there into turn 13 with Jack. He was briefly at the top of this session. That was a shot in the mouth, maybe falling on, going through 13, that nearly caught him out big time. He'll of course at the special liveries for Fabio Quartararo today. There will be one later on in the Grand Prix as well for the Tranac squad with one of their principal sponsors, the French Stuttgart brand Alpine. So you can let's keep an eye out for that. It's very much a French tricolor Slade X2 accident degree. Jan Villan. Those who are sure they see this as a real opportunity believes today he was fastest prior to that the moment to turn 13. He's got in place this session being led by the World Championship leader Mark Marquez. We didn't know really. I thought the stuff at Big Hot was actually going very well in this one session in my memory. Second and trying me a fourth. He's fine the limit this morning is Miller. Losing the front nearly in turn 13 at the rear. Step out as he got the gas coming through 3 and 4 as well. So he's just certainly testing the boundaries of grip levels at the moment this morning is Miller. Yeah, my marker is the leads 140 points with Tariq side. You wanted to hit the front ahead of Quartararo in the sprint yesterday. You did get a 7 seat is rather really. It's got 6 sprints, 6 wins, but it's as he mentioned yesterday. I don't want to be known as Mr. Saturday. I want to be Mr. Sunday, having dropped the ball and crashed out of the leading coach. Oh, this is going to get tight, isn't it? It's the warm-up drive. Steady on a smaller deli. Just charges through on further. How's the gale on the outside? And him to go extreme wide even probably what got it at the 13 or 14. Michael Staxer last year as we've got Alex Marquez on the floor. He's there at Dunlop, I think, isn't he? I think he's lost that along with Richigamme. He's warning the riders to be careful because the bike is wide on the inside of the racetrack. That would have been a pretty fast scratch for Alex Marquez. He's done down on the 1-up. So it's number 3. So out the game, immediately down, courtesy of Frankie Morbidelli. And Alex Marquez is on the pin. I think it's probably called so low that maybe some gravel being shot onto the race in the tank too. So that's a big get off. Doesn't matter whether it's wet or dry here in Le Mans. And a couple of battle rolls through the gravel trap from Alex Marquez. Yeah, red flags. I think there's just been a almighty heat of gravel has been shocked across the circuit with 4 seconds to go. That will be that for him. Yeah, painfully. Nice sense in reopening the tech lane. As you can see there was 2 or 3 rather hefty rolls over in the gravel. There's Alex Marquez. Second, he sits in the MotoGP World Championship after a 6 successive second place in the sprint. I don't care what you say, I mean, these riders are great at blocking out adverse moments and setbacks, but that will just be a little knock to Alex's confidence going into the Michelin Grand Prix of France this afternoon. The marshals have been able to quickly move his Ducati GP24 away from the scene. Of course, you don't want to be trashing one of the bikes on the warm-up in case it's top retired. You don't need him in the back to black to black later on. Cup finish on the time he's boost, by the way. Stays at the on boost, but the session will not restart with only 4 seconds on the clock. So the warm-up will be topped by the 2020 World Championship. Joan Mir told me Century Honda, who did return to the points yesterday. Once again, keeping up his record this season. Whenever he does get to check a flag, he does get there in the points. And of his 5 Deutsch finishes so far this season, 4 of them now have been in sprints. Probably should have been in that top 9, to be fair, because he was only Pedro Acosta's big late mistake when he was fit. And that MotoGP battle with Maverick Vinales is just, well, the filter with Boulder and Acosta biting the dust. I don't think he realised, well, clearly he hadn't realised that Vinales had made a mistake going into Shimada berth, and Acosta was comfortably clear in that battle for 5th. So clearly felt that Vinales is maybe going to send it on the inside in that last couple of corners. So that's our warm-up session. 9 minutes and 56 seconds of it completed before we got the red flags. So no resumption in action this morning. The next time we'll have bikes on track here in Le Mans, you'll be lighting us out for the French Grand Prix in Moto3. That'll be at 11 AM local time, so in just over an hour. What will the conditions be? That'll be a quadrilateral as always. Technology is huge at the Sidverus home support. Yes, he unveiled that special livery on the start-finish line here last night. Tens of thousands of fans stay behind well after the on-track action has completed for what is always a massive Saturday night party in Le Mans. We left last night in glorious, beautiful sunshine, very sort of pleasant mid-May temperatures. But I have to say, this does have a rather familiar Le Mans feel to it, doesn't it? A damp start to race day. What is that stat? We've had 11 of the last 23 MotoGP races here at the Bugatti circuit have either started wet or rain has fallen during the action. Will it be 12 and 24? Well, we'll find out, won't we? 2 PM local time, which does sound like there is a threat of rain around at that stage of the day. Just see there, Alex Marquez. Big one, that. That's going to certainly jolt the confidence in the drive. He'll be carrying 200 kilometers an hour through there, 125 miles an hour or so. That's slightly slower in the wet conditions for obvious reasons. Well, see now on board Alex Marquez. So through the fast turn 1, well, now tipping it's turn 2, so 170 kilometers an hour. 4th gear, Alex Marquez losing it, and it's the major league. Alex Marquez is okay, but also there were no widens up into the chicane where that Brasili Ducati was heading. Just early, picked the tire back up there. He just started squeezing the throttle back on it. Just looked like the rear just rightfully steps out enough just to kick him off that turf bike. So, but I'm sure there's a few scrapes and some bruises, maybe a couple of friction burns. He did tumble a long way through the gravel trap. Well, it doesn't matter what. It could be only one thing. We're here in Le Mans, the historic Bugatti circuit for the Michelin Grand Prix of France. 3 months since we arrived at this legendary venue, just around 7:30 a.m. this morning, where fangorally acclaimed with the best vantage points. It's been all eyes on the skies. We had a wet MotoGP water session this morning. Top 5 Honda rider, 2020 World Champion Joan Mir. Leading the MotoGP World Championship right now, though, is Mr. Saturdays. As he starred himself yesterday, Marquez of 6 consecutive sprint victories in 2025 sees the Spanish rider bring a 2-point lead over Brazil into the 27-lap Michelin Grand Prix of France. That'll be lights out of Chiffy of local time this afternoon. We're getting our 6th race day of the season underway, as always. It's going to be fast and frenetic in the front once again as the Moto3 field getting set to do battle over 20 laps with Jose Antonio Rueda and looking to build on his 4-point advantage in the World Championship. 5 Moto3 battles are taking place so far this season. We've only had 2 race winners. Jose Antonio Rueda, your series leader, after that dominant win from pole position in front of his home crowd last time out in Jerez in somewhat more sunnier conditions. It's fair to say they've what we've agreed to win this morning getting in Le Mans with Angel de Queiroz, his closest championship rival at the moment. First Spaniard victorious in Argentina and in Qatar, of course. Always a tough one to call, particularly with these iffy conditions. As you can see, this 20-lap race has been declared dry. Looms, we have a surprise day in many respects, starting from pole position. Keyless back from injury. He's had a 1 Grand Prix in his career so far. That was in Austin, where he turned up and dazzled us with a front row start, leading on his first Grand Prix. A serious thumb injury. Second Grand Prix is on pole position. He's some star. Aspar found another freakish talent, haven't they? By the evidence of what we've seen so far, and to tell you a small snapshot of the Max Kilo's Grand Prix career, but already what we're seeing from him is that he is phenomenally fast. Second on his debut in qualifying, followed up and told position for a second Grand Prix start, but it's not just Kilos, it's a bit of a rookie takeover at the front of the field here, because the rider on your streets, the 94 of Guido Pini, the young Italian from Borgo San Lorenzo, so he'll have plenty of support with Fernando Mugello in a few races time. 2 17-year-olds, 2 rookies, first and second of the grid. You know, a slightly more experienced head completing that front row of the grid, and this is a round trip really sad, isn't it? 2025, 66 then. Joe Kelso just sweeping through your picture, tiptoeing his way around third, 8 the garage vetting corner. The 21-year-old Australian, third in the World Championship, 57 points. Kelso has gathered from the opening side Grand Prix, and he fires away from the front row with a 4th race in succession. 2 podiums in the last 3 as well for Kelso. He's really the only rider on a consistent basis of late that's been able to go with that dominant Spanish duo of Rueda and de Queiroz. You can see those sort of scattering and damp patches still littering his 4.19 coverage of the Bugatti circuit. The race has been declared dry, and given the current weather and conditions. Jack Capriot down on the grid. How's it looking? In dry race declared, Tayo Sato, David Almanza, Luca Inecta were the first to arrive at their grid slots with wet tyres on. All 3 instantly said, slick tyres, let's change. I think that's going to be the case across the grid. Everyone arriving on wet to have gone out and checked out what conditions like, but pretty much everyone, I imagine, is going to swap across to the dry tyres. Yeah, thanks so very much for that early observation. Jackie's really busy. I'll keep an eye on those tyre choices. So Keyless there on the 28 CM Moto. Aspar KTM coming to pole position for the very first time. He is named to watch, isn't he? In the future, he's already under the watchful eye of the Marquez brothers. Mark saying yesterday that he is one to watch for the future without any question. Missed the last 2 Grand Prix with a broken right thumb. When Stone was up so far this weekend for Kilos, trying in that first pole position. This could be a new experience, though, I guess, for Kilos in this slightly touchy racetrack. You might notice when the riders are tunnelling onto the grid is that while one of the racetrack is dry, there are wet patches on the start finish straight, so there'll be some riders who'll be starting on dry grid slots and others on wet grid slots. And just to tidy up the situation with the race being declared dry, that means if we do get the rain, when man steps in the way, then race direction have the power to stop the race. Had it been declared wet, then it would have been ran to a finish and no change in weather conditions blew for the stoppage to the race. Does not look like a raw 17-year-old at this world champion level at all, does he, Keyless? He really has already shone brightly in this year's Moto3 World Championship. Just a shame. I mean, straight after Austin, a brilliant performance in Kota, that he picked up a broken right thumb in a training accident. He actually did arrive in Qatar. I wasn't aware of the severity of that injury. And when there was further x-rays pre the Doha Grand Prix weekend, they found quite a nasty fracture, which did actually require surgery. As I was mentioned, we have a first-time pole sitter in Moto3 in Keyless, alongside him on the front row of the grid is another young teenage tearaway looking to make big waves in this year's Moto3 World Championship. Just 17 years of age himself, Pini, 7th last time out in the career best, looking top 10 did us. Chief Pini, he's starting to warm to life in the Moto3 World Championship. As you mentioned, one of the wiser old heads on that front row in particular, 3rd in the World Championship, 3rd on the grid is Joe Kelso. Let's get his thoughts with Jack. Not ideal conditions for a Grand Prix. What are they like out there after the Sajima? It's quite dry, honestly, obviously. Some wet patches, but it's quite dry, so going over the slick tires, I think everyone will. Are there any big areas of concern where it's a bit damper than others? A little bit at turn 7. What sensei? Good mate. Cheers, mate. Joke also pretty clear what the Aussies pick will be, of course, on the level of MTA machine. So all Spanish and a pretty talented second row of the grid as well, led by Angel de Quedas, so already a 2-time winner this season. Adrian Fernandez, who I guess will have felt pretty confident come rain or shine here this morning. He's got some previous in wet conditions, led Australia Grand Prix by a mile before he went down and still finished 5th a year and a half ago. He's looked good in the dry conditions this weekend too. Was faster on Friday. The Hondas look much more competitive versus the KTMs, certainly compared to Jerez 4 night ago. So as you mentioned, Jose Antonio Rueda, already winner of 3 of the opening 5 Grand Prix. He's having the way down a little bit this weekend, it's fair to say, down in Naked Drive, certainly replicating my machine. Let's get some thoughts for what chapter he's got. And Nicky Ayers with Jack. Nicky, looks as though it's going to be dries across the board for everyone, but when you're leading and fighting for a world championship, is this a race where you just need to get to the checkered flag? Yeah, but I think everyone's pretty much going on dry tires this race. Looks like it's only wet here in the main straight, but of course, I think the most important today is to try to finish the race. For sure, it's difficult for sure, because I mean, on the first lap, can't lose too much position, you can't lose too much time, but on the other hand, you also have the finish. So let's see. I hope the brain's there today to finish the range. Well, good luck. Thank you. Yeah, got to box clever, got to ride smart and intelligent though with this 20-lap battle here in Le Mans. Heading Road 3, a big home weekend for the Tech 3 team here, of course. And I'll be delighted to see Valentin Piroli, the 17-year-old, his best qualifying performance of his World Championship career so far, starting at the head, of course, of your World Championship leader, Jose Antonio Rueda. 57 laps Rueda has led so far this season. That's 28 more than the rest of this grid combined. 3 wins this year, 7.2 seconds even wide Burham, 2.3 seconds in Austin, 4.3 seconds in Jerez. Just shows that when he does get to the front, he's very, very capable of breaking away and dominating these Moto3 sprouts. Compared to the 57 laps he's led, his Chief Takawai, Angel de Quedas has led just 2 when he led about a combined 300 metres across those 2 laps that he crossed the line in the lead off, but you've only got a lead at the end of the final lap. So one of the nerves, like for young Max Keyless, they for pole position before the first time. Jorge Martinez Aspar, it's sticking to Jan. Jorge, the nerves I'm sure are pretty high for Max. First ever pole position. Difficult conditions. How was he feeling ahead of the race? Very good again. For sure, the third 3 laps is gegen Matthew Blitz. The most important feeling, but it's not pushed to my way. This condition is very, very difficult. But good luck. Thank you so much. So, yeah, this is the big test. Thank you very much to absolute legend Jorge Martinez Aspar. Good little chat there with Jack. Yeah, you're gonna have to be pretty cautious over these first 2 laps. It's just you find that word that the grip is Keyless, though, impressing this weekend. The only rider all weekend at the final lap to the World 39s on a Moto3 bike around this spaghetti circuit. Confirmation from Pirelli, every rider is starting this Grand Prix on the slick tyres. Generally, the Volvo slick soft front and rear. Keyless for Keras, Munoz Rueda, the Kia Oilers who complete medium front tyre. But hold on, Drice. Back at that third row is Leopard Racing's David Almanza, second fastest Honda so far this weekend. He had a bit of a get-off at turn 3 on Friday morning. And no top 10 in the last 3 for the 19-year-old Spaniard. So we're just looking for a big result to build on his challenge for the top 10 in the early part of this championship campaign. So for Asato, Miguel All-Pro 4, a couple of Japanese Chargers on the 4th row of the grid who'll be looking to go forwards for Asato in 11th place, and Yusa Yamaka right next door to him in 12th place. Gemini Propose, we've already seen the one of Cody, we've seen him leading Grand Prix already this year in Qatar, so keep an eye out for him coming from the 4th row of the grid. Yeah, heading that 5th row of the grid is Alvaro Carplate, the Red Bull K-Team IO rider. Carplate's impressed, hasn't he, so far in his first season with the Moto3 World Championship. 6, he currently sits in the standings, so the 43 points. He has just the one top 6, so since that brilliant debut at the China International Circuit in Bahrain. So the countdown into race action here in Le Mans well and truly underway. There'll be a few nervy and anxious faces with these Moto3 teams. This is a bit of a journey into the unknown, isn't it? And this iconic Bugatti circuit, as they try and pick their way through these damp patches, as though just mentioned, every rider, all 26 of them, rough fire, wouldn't he? Yes, on slicker tyres. Took it of Japanese fans, good to see them. And here this weekend, of course, had a big interest in MotoGP later on this afternoon with Ayagura joined by HRC test rider Taka Nakagami. Right, but he had to say the start is going to be particularly interesting here. Get the information from Red Bull. Richigamme down on the grid. The second is largely dry, but perhaps the wettest part is this start-finish straight, of course, where they're all starting from. So those slip tyres could be spinning quite a lot as they try and manoeuvre this Moto3 bikes off the line in a couple of minutes. Penny with the thought right now of Max Keyless as he got the eyes closed. Dip briefly just as he gets himself in the zone, fully focused. He's already had an outstanding weekend in just his second World 3 to find himself in pole possession. Here we go then. 20 laps of Moto3 actually coming away in the Job Kelso, the inform Aussie front row in his last 4 starts. 3rd in the World Championship. That is the level up MTA rider. But in second on the grid, his first front row in World Championship racing is Guido Pini, but leading the field away from top position for the very first time is the classy Max Keyless. Well, the rookies ran riot in qualifying yesterday. Will they be able to stay out front of 20 laps on Sunday? Max Keyless starts with a first Moto3 pole ahead of Guido Pini, a first front row at Joel Kelso, the experienced head on the front row of the grid. Angel Piqueras heads row 2 ahead of Adrian Fernandez, top Honda, and David Munoz. Martin Peroni for the home-based Tech 3 squad. Championship leader Jose Antonio Rueda and left tires David Almanza make up row 3. Carraro, Versato, and Yamaneka on row 4 ahead of Alvaro Carpi, Vicente Perez, who continues to replace the Matteo Vitali and Dennis Fulcher. Nicola Scott Ogden and Jacob Ralston on row 6 for Cormac Buchanan and Adrian Cluzes, who's still in the box. Oriate and Stefano Nepo. Ricardo Rossi starts 22nd yard along that penalty to serve at the early going. Technical Bawasri now in Dick Dillon joining him and completing your grid on 26. Jakob Rosenthal, who's simply injured for Shane Moodley. them do. They made him go for the first 2-3 laps and then try to swap and I got the first ride that we'd be in the front and the push we let and it'd be an easy way for sure. Thanks for guessing. Yeah, thanks as always to Take Manuel, the factory, Ducati, right? He goes away from 6th place on the grid. The MotoGP has come up later on this afternoon. Good time to ride on board there with some of the Moto3. As you can see, after what was a full wet wall session, they managed to do this morning. 0 spray whatsoever. They kicked up by these narrow dry tyres on the Moto3 bikes. So it's a straight sheet out. Every rider on the slick rubber. As you mentioned, it will be all eyes on those skies. Our latest weather update was pretty much spot on that it was going to be a dry start for this Moto3 battle. Probably as well for the 22 that Moto2 race dry too. Sort of worryingly. The next time we would be able to potentially see some rain in them on was bang on 2 o'clock this afternoon, which of course is when we are due for lights out in the 27-lap Michelin Grand Prix of France. That sort of come later on this afternoon though, grabbing our full attention right now is Keyless, the rising Spanish star, already a protege as the Marquez siblings on that front row of Guido Trini. He'll be a little bit nervous. A few butterflies about the Pina, the Italian, his first frontmost start. Joe Kelso looking to recover ground on the way of the chaos in the championship. It's lights out, we're racing in Moto3 here. And Lamont, some really good stuff, and that made a pole position for the 28 bike of Bines. He's been high pursued here though by Piqueras. Kelso trying to toughen out on the inside as well. He's back in 4th place, and Minos gets the quick summer rider as we go through third team. But Kias has made the dream start from that dream pole. He needs the field through. They're all safely through the Dunlop chicane. It could be a long way back there into the Dunlop chicane. Try to go around the outside of a few deep, but they deep not work. So it's Keyless for Kelso and then Piqueras, the white trooping light into La Chapelle working out for Max Keyless. So far, so good for the first-time pole sitter. Yeah, Munoz was sticking up her way to go through that second corner, and now Munoz trying to cut the inside line to get through a beating. Feely is behind the voting tag teammate, slams the door shut in his face. Keyless then from Kelso and Piqueras as they drop down now at this tricky downhill off-camera braking zone into Garage back turn 8. Yeah, Rueda got an amazing start, but then of course Munoz in the first couple of corners and it's put him back to 7th. He's just up the inside now. I think called Taro and he'll need Tech 3 KTM. Rueda looked like he picked up another place there into the top 6. Yeah, Munoz ticked off his teammate Tini down the hill into turn 8 into Garage. But there he is, and that to the fluorescent bright number 64. So Munoz already at a couple of places on lap 1. Started 6, he's up in 4. Did start for Catrium Fernandez of the Leopard Hub. Then he's the second of the Leopard bikes just at the back of this train. He's running 10th of the Malvides team Almanza as Kelso is the front for the first time. Keyless then his first land. Austin, he won't lead at the end of lap 1 here. Yeah, and he's coming in a big crash as well from Buqueras, who just showed him his front wheel going through turn 12. Kelso then, he has led a bunch of Moto3 races in the past without ever finding his way to the checker flag first. He will complete lap 1 now here. Edelman leading the pack away. Kelso then the Aussie is that have the advantage. Keyless second, Piqueras in 3rd place. Pretty extinct as they now fake down towards this flat out 6-gear first corner. Stay down and tip it right through turns 1 and 2 with big overtaking opportunity into the Dunlop chicane. It allows the move potentially trying to come in there for Pini, who was attacking his teammate Munoz, but Munoz has held on to that 4th place. Yeah, he was tackled, they attacked because Pini was cooking a big pressure himself from Forasate. Forasate there has come from 11th place. It was a strong first lap, wasn't it, for Pini? Piqueras through to 2nd place. He picked up Keyless through La Chapelle. Once again, that wider line for Keyless, but it didn't work out on that occasion. And Pini's going to take advantage to so too as Munoz. Keyless getting beaten up badly. He's back to 5th. Now, getting a dust up here was the big time. That's for Yusai Yamanaka, and the Japanese rider that's gone down. Top 5 in that last 2 Grand Prix, including Qatar played him his first Santos. Got a real tight line to Garrett as Ben squeezes his way through. Not a lot of room that we found it. Saw Keyless as Keyless continues to slide the wrong way down the field. On up to Zaspar said it was so positive. These early laps for Keyless to stay calm. I guess it's much harder to do that when you're coming under siege in this race the way he is. So at the moment it's Kelso from Piqueras in the front of the race. And in tech 3 ball, Munoz from TD. Versato 5th. Keyless coming into pressure now from the World Championship leader. That's holding on Jose Antonio Rueda now. Moves up there to 6th. Keyless is a bit of a rolling roadblock right now as he's got Almanza. There's the 2 Leopard on this swarming all over. I think it's really tired right now. Back at the front, it's still going to be Kelso ahead of Piqueras as we a complete lap tree. They have 20 over the line again, and now it's going to be just all about the slipstream once again. The Keras, that's right on circuit. 143.6 a tureen for there is Munoz, who's come through from 6th to 3rd place. He's nipped in the first part of this Grand Prix. Only seen the Czech bike though, one of our first 5 Grand Prix when you are so important in the end. Once again, he's in a good position. We've seen him in the leading crew for a few occasions this season, but very rarely has he stayed there. Up to the checkered flag. Crucial afternoon for the 64 to try and bank some much needed World Championship points. How much is the early morning rain impacting on the lap times here as Yamanaka? Well, you don't think he'll go to that one, I'm afraid. That is not a rideable motorcycle at all, is it? Here he is on the outside of La Chapelle. See some contact there. Good over Vicente Perez. Yeah, a bit of a helping hand there from Yamanaka. He wasn't a slightly wide line with Perez, or just say, well, there was a gap there, and I just went for it. Here comes Munoz then, thinking about a move on the Keras. Damn it, the garage there. He's not close enough. We're saying let him Keras, though he's right there. Yeah, top 4 in your picture, just with a few backlights between themselves and Forasato Rueda, who we're so used to seeing lead races from the front to try and stretch the field out. Not in a position to do that here. He's sitting there to roll his sleeves up and get his elbows out on this occasion if he's to maintain that World Championship lead. As mentioned, just how is the rain impacting the early lap times? The race record here in Le Mans is a 141.059. Well, Esteban last year, so we're 2.8 seconds away. So the optimal slick type pace here in Le Mans. So that early morning rate has had an impact on the early speed here, because it's going to be a more grip gets laid down and the conditions will improve. Maybe we'll be getting down closer to those sort of lone 141s. Kelso then leads the field as through record him on. He's about to record lap 4 of 20 here in Le Mans, and it is Munoz, the top 3 all exchange fastest laps. 42.6 is on Kelso Vaqueras, 42.5 for Munoz. And battling in that final section with the later part of Honda's Fernandez trying to recover from his poor start. That's now gone through on David Armand, set into 8th place there. The 2 bikes immediately up behind Chiles, who has settled down a little bit now. He did his personal best on a 42.6, matched the pace of the race leader. So Chiles, after those initial nervy first 3 laps, looks like he settled into this. So his career best 7th on the grid. Tironi is extend. And of Carpe, who takes off the ledger on last lap. Perez in the voice of Buchanan and Ogden. Yeah, it was Keras moved wide there, coming out of La Chapelle, and they'll help Munoz to get a run on it, which just swept around the outside. He was the wrong side of the curb there, coming out of La Chapelle turn 6. There might still be a little bit of moisture hanging in those curbs, and it cost Keras 2nd place. Well, Munoz has only gone the distance so far in one Grand Prix, has not got a lot of race time under his belt so far in 2025, but he's looking in good nick right now on the 64 bike, hunting down at Jalso as they come right to Shimano. This is a good overtaking hot spot as the track just drops away the braking zone here for turn 9. That's cleaning for that move on the front 10 there. And this KTM, as he squeezes a help for the front brake into 9, he's able to keep Forasato behind him though. It's impressive from PD this, showing absolutely no signs at this stage of being shaken out at that leading group. Forasato, the rider immediately behind him. Then in 5th place is your leading Honda currently on the racetrack, with the 2 leopard sheets still nailed back there in 8th and 9th place. Kelso, but a bit of a fight, and that's Rueda. Aggressive on the inside of Forasato into turn 13. Absolutely made that by the World Championship leader, trying to make sure that he doesn't lose that 4-point advantage that he has over the Keras coming into this French Grand Prix. They now power through this high-speed turn 1. French Kelso is Munoz sliding of a pass on the inside for the lead. No, he's not. Here comes Quiles. Tried to recover lost ground. He speeds on the inside of Forasato into 3. But puts this bike to the fastest rider or tracker right behind that battle. Adrian Fernandez are all 42.0, half a second quicker than the leader. They've really got good pace on those left Londons, but they're stuck in traffic. Sure, back Ogden took Buchanan to 14th place. That's the tail end of the point scoring place. They're only about 2.5 seconds back of your leader though. There's Kelso now through these long radius left hand of the museum corner. And this way on Forasato and 2 there into museum, so he has now picked up another place. He's now your leading Honda up into 7th place. Mentioned before the race got underway that he's looked good all weekend in dry conditions. Fernandez perhaps the leading Honda threat, not just on the road, but they're perhaps their best contender to fight for the podium here. Yeah, just how much the contest are improving lap by lap here. We are only about 2nd the way down from the Moto3 race record here in Le Mans. We're looking directly ahead to David Munoz on the 64 bike. Has been, as you were, in terms of that top three for a couple of laps now. Kelso doing a great job of making the fun running here. Munoz and Vaqueras, two very aggressive Spaniards, have come behind the 66. And a fresh-faced young Italian right behind, who's in between the two leading World Championship contenders. So we're going to find out a lot about Guido Dini in these next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Piqueras beating the upper head is Rueda right behind. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix to the World Championship leader this time. Rueda running fit. Yeah, Kilo's in the high 141s himself as well. It just obviously was maybe just a little bit tense to be those of you actually worked out where the grip was, and now he is getting himself back off. Adelso charges in a little bit too hot there into turn 3. That's going to cost him a lot of drive with an exit speed coming out of 4. He's done a really good job there, actually, Gelso, of keeping this charging pack behind him as Pini now fires his way through. But Vaqueras, Pini gets from Vaqueras and Munoz in 2 corners. The Italian rookie had no experience to help in the second place. That was all triggered by Kelso going deep, which put him on that tight 9 for turn 4. Back the field up behind him. And Munoz did him out there about anywhere to go other than to shut off the throttle. That caused him to lose the place to T. Here, in the middle of all of that. So Rueda now up ahead of his title rival. They're 4th and 5th. Rueda's getting racy here as they up there in 4th place. That means it potentially extending that Champions League up to 6 points. So oblivious of all the drama behind him, was your still race leader Kelso. There was Pini, who's doing a fantastic job there. Started this Grand Prix in P2. Forasato's had a difficult sort of lap and a half last 2 laps. He sort of slips out of podium contention here. Forsato actually now back in 10th place. He was 5th or 6th, was it, a couple of laps ago. And he needed the runner-up at Masters Junior GP World Championship, but he missed practically the first half of the season through injury. So that tells you what a strong job he did, but he finally was fully fit last year. So it's not a big surprise to see the 94 immediately making waves in the Moto3 World Championship, because we've already seen him up inside the top 10 in the last 2 Grand Prix. Yeah, the problems of Tini, unfortunately, is he doesn't tend to bounce very well, does he, from a practically already, despite being 17, picked up some real nasty injuries in his career. Can't play fastest rider on circuit, but of all 3 up to Munoz now. Fires back on his teammate Pini into turn 3. Kelso, he's having trouble, isn't he? He's just been down the right. He's having real issues, Kelso, stopping that KTM into turn 3. And now Pini says, thank you very much. Guido Pini, for the first time in his Grand Prix career, hits the front. 2 laps in a row that Pini's done that. He was beating over Ted Kidd into the Dunlop chicane, but in Munoz, Kelso went deep again and back the field up. Kelso wants to lead back. He goes straight to the inside, but Pini looking to try and take it. Kelso back in the front. That's consecutive laps now where mistakes into Dunlop from Kelso, of course, have it behind him. Kelso leading an absolute tracker here in Le Mans. Down the hill they go into Garage Fair. It's king of 7 of 20 as Keyless picks up Piqueras. Piqueras and Amaya is stuck in a bit of a sandwich here, isn't it? What a battle this is. We said pre-race is going to be pretty frenetic here in France. And it has licked up to the Brilli. There is Keyless, your pole starter. He's trying to work his way back through on Fernandez on the 31, but Pest Munoz. As I say, that would have been ambitious, to say the least, to finally get on Rueda into Shimano Blurf. There was Rueda looking very much cool, calm and collected. He looks like he's got the coolest head of all of them in this league group. Eddie O'Shea, unfortunately, is down. He's gone down to Garage Bear. Turn number 8 for the number 8. Fastest rider on track is another rookie at the moment. Alvaro Carpe on the 83 for Red Bull KTM, who's somewhere in the middle of this tossy of Moto3 riders as they come across the line. Let's see how much covers they sort of repeats. They come at the challenge at the back of this leading group. Across the line they go. 2.2 seconds covers your point scorers. Hank Kelso nailed turn 3. Successive mistakes he's made now going into this corner right now on the brakes. Pini just trying to take him off. Then that's more like it, Joe. That's the effects way to negotiate the Dunlop chicane. He nailed that. He was never going to make it 3 mistakes in a row, was he? Going into that famous chicane. Now they trot down through Lachapelle. We're all forward with World Championship leader Rueda. He's taking a face full of Pini at the moment. Further back, you've got Munoz, Fernandez, Keyless back inside that top 6. Forasato's re-career, having had a poor couple of laps. He's just done his personal best lap at the race, a 142.1. Was Forasato back up into 9th. just underlined how much pace they lost as they were climbing all over each other, coming out of Dunlop. The leader Kelso did a 42.5 last time round. For Asato, Peroni, Perez, Ogden and Buchanan at the back of this group, they're all a half second quicker than the leader as they were all backing each other up, and that's why we've got such a big punch at the front of this field now. Kelso, having got Dunlop right this time, decided to stretch the pack out again. And once again, Munoz just thinking about, and thinking against it, maybe an attack on Rueda into Shimano berth. Here was Kelso then now into turn 11. Then he'll flick it left through 12. Now there's Rueda, beautiful, absolutely beautiful on the flip-flop there. To 11 and 12, and Rueda really is now starting to mount his charge toward the front of this race. Peeney's had a poor couple of corners there because he's been picked up by Rueda and his teammate Munoz. It's going to be Kelso then, that will lead us on to lap 9 of 20. And Kelso getting on with this. He's just playing the fast lap of the Grand Prix, 141.77 his lead, nearly 4/10 of a second. Personal best for everybody in the top 14 on track. Munoz now the inside of Rueda, back up into second place. Adrian Fernandez is just behind his leading quartet. There he is on the 31, the way up out Honda in 5th place. Stefano Necker incidentally out of picture has come into the pit, so he is our 3rd retirement. Kelso needs a bit of a carve-up. He does live between the likes of Rueda and Munoz team, because while he's got that clear track ahead of him, he might just be able to maybe just keep running his lines, hitting his braking markers, and then extend what is already a 4/10 of a second gap. Stefano Necker was called it quits on the 658 squadron. Caused the machine a bit of a shake of the head for the number 82. He was way down the order, doing to the high 147, so some kind of tech issue for him. But it's a bad day for Red Lap Racing. There's actually Cruces joins Eddie O'Shea in the gravel trap, unfortunately. You can tell such stretch this out. His lead through the second sector was nearly half a second. Munoz and Rueda need to sort of call a truce on their battle at the moment, just to make sure that the 66 doesn't get too far up the road. There is Adrian Cruces. Plus we saw his teammate go down at Garage Bear, and fortunately for Cruces, he only made it a couple laps further. For Asato, dive 3 kilos into 11. That was a hard move, and it's another dive. He can't take your order. This caddy, his car plate going through on Almansa. There's Peroni also stood in the thick of this battle for the top 10. Was he started from that career-best sub-place on the grid. Kelso then now, as we cross the halfway point of this Grand Prix, Kelso and Munoz once again exchange hot laps. Munoz is flying, a 1:41 track from Munoz. Well, more than the rest of the field. He was 4/10 quicker than Kelso. Rueda, half a second quicker than Peeney. That's a new race lap record for David Munoz, who's clawed himself straight back up to the rear tyre of Kelso once again, and is stretching the leading group out. Remember I said a few laps ago that there was only a couple of seconds covering the point scorers. That is now approaching 4 seconds as the likes of Perez, Buchanan, Ogden and Moletta at the back of this group now getting detached again. So it's Kelso who's so much of the front running in this Grand Prix. Briefly to back to the lead when Peeney picked up the baton. Looking back from Kelso then to the 64 bike Munoz, looking for his first podium of the season. Perez has got a long lap penalty. That will be for the contact with Yamanaka at the start of the race, maybe, would it be? I think he said there was no further action as well as that. Maybe he's taking a shortcut on the way on, just different. It's down at Shimano berth. We'll get further information, I'm sure, in a moment. He is in this pack. He's just at the back of it, running in 14th place on the 32, but he'll have to jump out of that group and relinquish any points that he might score today. He's done the shortcut at turn 4, just seen on our screens here, and the I'm Gil Vaqueras, the rider who came into this French Grand Prix second in the World Championship, already a 2-time winner in 2025, where he beats his heady frustration into the gravel trap. That's Vaqueras that commits his first big mistake of 2025. That's wakes over for Vaqueras. He's going to lose crucial ground now in this World Championship, particularly with Rueda still right in the hunt for his 4th win in the Arabic 6 Grand Prix. Look at him, Vaqueras' mistake has already had on the points scoring place, cooking even worse. As he stands right now, with Rueda 3rd and Vaqueras out, he's already 20 points adrift of his fellow Spaniard. He needs to favoured out to Vaqueras from Intact GP. They've got one rider, Munoz right ahead of Rueda, and Peeney right behind. Coming out of the right-hander of the Shimano berth, we see a lot of riders go down the left back of the optics, and here he goes, high standing out of the way. He's already getting drops, to be fair, from our leading groups at backs. Vaqueras is pushing a little bit too hard, seeing that top 4 get away from him. Yeah, 2 now on the gas through turn 10. Empty helmet, semi-side. They can't quite believe what they've witnessed there. So the first big mistake of the season. And comes the way up to Keras. I guess you could say the being out level between him and Rueda. Rueda, of course, he was luckless in the sale, wasn't he? When he had that KTM X5, but he was in that lead battle later. So just being told on his board, the 36 of the Keras, who he'd be expected to be one of his main rivals at the back end of this Grand Prix, is out of contention. Forasato's name just tumbled down the order as well. He's made a mistake like it's go. I just saw him behind Chiles. They're up 10 and 11. Ferrari towards the Kira's car tag. He's just at the back of the diction. Here he comes on the 83. This down onto the leopard. Honda's right up behind him. Can't fit the start of this lap. Was 1.4 seconds behind Tini. Last rider in the leading group. He's chipping away at halfway through this lap. So Carpe's looking to try and make this a 5-rider fight with him. Into the second half then of this Grand Prix of France in Moto3. You're looking at the lead quartet. It's Calso from Munoz, from Rueda, who's having a big day in terms of the championship potentially in Kelso and Rueda. Personal best stats for Carte, 140.838. Carte is the only rider out on track at the moment. But it's in those 140s. He's 4/10 quicker than our lead 2. It's confirmation on his screens that Perez getting the long lap for his shortcut at turn 4. Dennis Bodjan just got to track him with warning. A few press out of Bodjan as co-promoting the experienced Italian up into the points scoring places in 15th spot. This is Jakob Rosenthal, who's also had a crash during this race, but he has remounted. He's our last runner on circuit back in 21st place. Of course, he could take that shortcut of either turns 3 and 4 or Shimano of turns 9 and 10. You've got to slot a second. Having done that completely in that occasion, Perez didn't do so. Joel Kelso has never had back-to-back podiums. Joel Kelso has never had a Grand Prix victory. Australia has not had a Grand Prix victory in Moto3 in 11 years. Jack Miller, all the way back in 2014. The same season that was Miller in Moto3 did win right here in Le Mans in the lightweight world championship category. It was Carpe then that tried to make what was a 4-rider fight for the podium, but a 5-rider tussle here in France. Carte's talk late speed, hasn't he? There's going to be a bit of sort of final third of this Grand Prix. 13th on the grid, Carpe started, and so much of the talk was about 2 other rookies on the front on the grid. Carpe is putting his hand up to saying, don't forget about me. Of course, he was on the podium in our first Grand Prix of the season back in Boira. There he is, just to the top of the picture. We'll track the gap once again as they come out of the record him on. And the start of this lap, Carpe was 9/10 of a second by Pini at 1.7. by Kelso. Looks like he's tracked slightly closer to the leader than that, as confident as a 41-1. He's now 1.5 off the race lead. So Kishwine from Cerncu looks the Davis Tini. As Rueda goes side by side. That's brave, isn't it? Side by side, trying to top it out. And with Munoz going through turns 1 and 2. And there is Pina, the 94, like a 141.095 from the highly rated young Italian. He is not out of contention here, but the played about not out of victory contention. Just at the top of your picture there, you can see Carpe desperately trying to hang on to this battle. He was just about 9/10 of a second back of Tini in 5th spot. Another rookie who we have to give a shout out to is Parodi, who's just taken Almanza and Fernandez with the Leopard Hondas. Valentin Parodi for the Tick 3 squad of our French team. He's now running 6th place. He's the first rider behind this group of 4. He was just off the back of them. Yeah, no, it started from toll line. Has been rather tough in the Mon. Afro Keyless Diaz just slipped out of the top 10 for the first time. Time for us to recovering up the ace mistake as Warrigated Keyless back into that 10th spot. So the down we go, then Perez, Richigamme and Foggia. They need a point of scoring places. Foggia not given that he's going to be sifting to the Jacob Rolston and Nicola Carrara, not too far behind the Italian. Perez has just dropped a few places, so Lachine Magazine taking his ball map penalty, which is down at Garage there. That has dropped him out of the points, has promoted Jacob Rolston into the points. Of course, the Tech3 teammates of this young man coming to the picture, Valentin Parodi. Here is Keyless Debradino out of place, and plus our expectations so high, given that he was on the front row, led his first lap. He stayed on top of his second Grand Prix. We had to remind ourselves all the time, very fact, this is just Fix Chiles' second Grand Prix. Yeah, what do you know? He's brilliant over 1 lap. I think he's just lacking that race experience over the distance. Kelso and Munoz. That really asking big questions here of Rueda of team behind him, because Kelso and Munoz have just completed their personal best laps of this Grand Prix. Nothing between them whatsoever. Kelso, a 141.013. Munoz, slightly faster with a 141.001. Fair play to Tini. He was just going just that little bit quicker than Rueda. directly ahead of him. I'll tell you, there has recovered about a 10th on that last lap. Andrade up to 6th, so he's what 2.5 seconds then back of Carpe, so unlikely that there's going to be any more further progress made by the Red Bull KTM X3 rider. Yes, you can see there on screen, Carpe was back in the 140s again on the last lap, the 149.97, but Kelso and Munoz both did 41 flat, so the pace there Carpe showing is sensational, but it's been matched by Linus now, and it's that you're in the 4 top of the battle. Playing that well, we've seen 2 riders pass out pretty contentiously, Baqueras and now Tini. But it's going to be a classic front end washout, surely. Down there on the turn 8, Garage there. Oh, well, he was looking so good. It'll take so much confidence and belief from fighting and with the very best in Moto3 at the front in this Grand Prix. He has picked up that Dynavolt and cheap machine, and he's still going to keep himself inside, pretty much inside the top 6 here. He's painting. You've seen that crash here. But the time's over ahead of on. Very tricky off camber, downhill braking zone. The best in the world have been caught out by Garage there. And as Tini then slips out of podium contention. I think he's out of the points now, Tini. I saw him rejoining behind Terez on the XTA bike, because the other XTA bike wins. And you're looking at 2 riders here who've yet to win a Grand Prix. Joel Kelso, best of 2nd in Austin earlier this year. Munoz has been 2nd on 3 previous occasions. Unless Rowena could close this gap down, he's not over this yet. We're staring at 2 riders here fighting for a maiden Moto3 win. Love that helicopter shot there of Kelso and Munoz. Downshifting, you can see their left foot in tandem as they went down through the gearbox into that turn 3. Turn 3, which was a pretty tricky negotiating at times in this Grand Prix for Joel Kelso. So now looks like it is a straight shootout, a showdown between the 66 of Kelso, the 64 of Munoz, and the 99 of Rowena in terms of the victory. And Rowena actually on that last lap did get down to his personal best lap of the race, so 141.121. Of course, I'm sure he's been told about who's closest championship role with Keras sliding out of contention. So Rowena knows there's a real big payday here in terms of the championship within his grasp. Well, I mentioned earlier the need for David Munoz just to score some points in this 2025 season. He's only finished in the points on 1 occasion, but I think just simply because of points is the furthest thing from Munoz's mind right now. 4 laps to go or 5 laps to go when they come across the line in a couple of quarters' time, and Munoz has his eyes on only one thing, and that's the win. You have to say, he does look very comfortable as well here, just seemingly at the moment, and just to sit on Kelso's rear tyre. How much pace have either of them got left for this crucial late stage of this Grand Prix? Over at the line we go then. It's Kelso. Yeah, that's successive and fastest laps as well for Rowena. Personal best laps. So do not roll out the World Championship leader. Aggressive as he downshifts there with that left foot. Munoz into turn 3. And now Rowena in his really big equation in this fixture battle here in Le Mans. He's already a 3-time winner so far in 2025. Can he win 4 of our first 6 Grand Prix? Carter looks like he's running into a bit of a brick wall further back. He's still stuck around a second the drift of the leading 3. As I hope the Keras not particularly keen to look at us. I'm particularly proud of himself, as we saw in the ground track. He was raging after that crash. Look at Rowena though here. He's certainly not out of this leading battle. He has jumped right on top of this leading day with that personal best on the last lap. A 141.0. Rowena not out of this by any stretch. Well, that could be a 29-point lead in the World Championship in about 10 minutes time. Because if Rowena can find a way to Munoz and Kelso, it looks like he's certainly got the pace. He certainly has the potential. Well, a material of what happens at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time, he would leave Britain and lead in the World Championship. It has to, though, somehow find a way to break at the challenge of Kelso and Munoz. It's very dark. I was just saying, this favourite team, the clouds are rolling in. Hopefully none of them drop some rain on us in the final 5 match, because this is building up to a thrilling finish. Kelso, reminding, 0 Grand Prix wins. Munoz, no Grand Prix wins. Munoz has already, of course, had a trio of second places. Surely he doesn't want to fall short once again. Is Rowena past another rider who's been boxing clever and just saving some time for these latter stages? Rowena was a couple of techs quick on that last lap with Munoz. Is he just been keeping his powder dry and just getting himself set for a real decisive late attack here? Thought about showing Munoz's front wheel into turn 3. And they tower through the Dunlop chicane now. Millimetres between Kelso, Munoz and Rowena. Rowena as they drop down through La Chapelle. He just looks visibly faster, doesn't he, than the two riders directly ahead of him. Fursaato's clambered his way back up into the top six. It's a pretty good rescue job of the Japanese rider. He's just picked off Piroli on that last lap. Still tantalising for Carpe. He must be praying for these three to engage with each other and have a bit of a battle up front, because that's the only thing that's going to bring Carpe into podium contention. He slopped it, but I'm in quite a lonely fourth place as Munoz just charges into Garage Bern. Has he just been following and waiting by Kelso, or is he on his limit just to match the Australian? There's going to be some pretty big parties in Darwin tonight. In Australia, if Kelso can be the first Aussie to win a Moto3 race in 11 years. Aussie viewers, I'm sure, into Sunday evening down under are glued to their TV sets here as Kelso goes defensive then now into turn 11. No way through for Munoz. Rueda still right there. Here comes Rueda. Oh, he made a move like that, didn't he, early on in this Grand Prix? Thought about it, but Munoz just that little bit too strong entry into 12. This is what Rueda had to base against trying that move, but it's David Munoz. He's not going to give that up without an almighty fight. 3 laps to go then. Kelso, these must feel like the longest 3 laps of his life. His lead, well, just the 0.2 of a second outcome of the top 3. They're all in your picture. Fair play to our man for his fifth place, just in his personal best lap of the race, 141.4. It's as you were, nobody attacking into turn 3. They sweep there now, fully in angle, out of the Dunlop chicane. They'll tower down the hill under the Dunlop bridge into La Chapelle. It's the games. There was Rueda. How much time maybe did he have to use to sort of claw his way back into this lead group, having started down in 8th place? There is Scarpe just keeping watching Burry for a rather lonely fourth as it stands right now. Trio of KTMs at the front. What makes it a little difficult to overtake out of seconds such as this is that one of the straights are out of slow corners, so naturally the rider ahead of you gets on the throttle before you do and just pulls out a little bit of a gap, which is why Rueda is getting a little bit creative into the S-Boy at the end of the lap, tried to catch Munoz by surprise. He's got 2.5 more laps to try and figure this one out. Too late for us, has seen now Ralston and Carraro and made up into the point scoring places. Kelso there now into turn 9, hard the brakes, takes up the throttle on that KTM, runs onto the curves. Defensive again, here comes Rueda. He's just seizing that inside line. That is a beautiful move. That is awesome. That is the perfectly executed move by Rueda into 11. He's up in the second place, and he really fancies this, doesn't he? No, here comes Munoz. You knew that was going to you knew there was going to be an instant retaliation inflicted out by Munoz. How costly could that be for Rueda? Because he's lost more about a dozen points down to Kelso. They'll be cheering that all down an NTA because that plays beautifully into the hands of Kelso. And what you had to say about Kelso is he's quick enough and all the way to the racetrack to fend off any kind of attack from Munoz. So he's now going to turn defense into attack. Yeah, but you just know when you task David Munoz, you've got to go really tight defense to the next corner because you just know he's going to try it on the inside. That's exactly what he did. He didn't disappoint right into that. That's all, did he? They close up once again, though. The two Spaniards punting down Kelso. They've seen Kelso's really tight for a number of laps now. They've been able to work out and calculate exactly what the strengths and weaknesses are of Kelso around this Ducati circuit. Whatever happens here to Kelso, he's been a phenomenal French Grand Prix. He won't want to lose in at this late stage of proceedings. Lap and a half to go. Carpe is out of this. He's running out of pace now. He's doing high 41s. He's slipping back towards that group led by Almanza in fifth. So it is firmly with these three on your screen that are fighting for your 3 steps on the podium. Still back Almanza for a start to find the oldest in person. But here comes Munoz. Is this his Myronari just once again? Shows Kelso into turn 9. Kelso lower than a little bit hot, was he there in 9? Here comes Rueda. He's trying to make that same move to 11 on Munoz. This time around, he's not close enough. We're trying to do it on the flip-flop now. He certainly is. He goes through up the inside of Munoz. Now then, can he fend off these 64 as we approach the little slab here? No, he can only just because Munoz. You can see how much pressure he's putting through that strong brake into that front tyre. So for successive laps and now, the way to lose his second place into record him on. Is that a crucial move in terms of Kelso's victory hopes here? Pitch plays beautifully into his hand. He's going to lead a fault into the second coming onto this final lap. But Wader's too busy trying to sort out Munoz that he can't get his hands on. Kelso at the front of the race. Munoz closes up big time into the Donut chicane. He's right on top of the Ilzy again. This is anybody's guess who's going to win this Trench Grand Prix. It has been the cracker once again here as the Illamon. Kelso drops down the hill through La Chapelle, just 8 corners away from his first ever Grand Prix victory. Halfway he is now around this final lap here in Le Mans. It is still Kelso resisting incessant pressure here from Munoz and Rueda. But we know where Munoz is going to try to attack. He attacked in Shimano Berth on the previous lap. We know where Rueda is going to try to attack. He prefers the S Blur, which follows that right-left of the Shimano Berth. This is turn 8, Garage Bear, and we'll now be starting to run down to the corner where Munoz attacked on the previous lap. Is Rueda though running out of time? Very little news going to see anybody take off 2 rides at this late stage. In the slipstream, Munoz goes. He's going to try and attack Kelso on the brakes in the turn. Neither Kelso, once again, he's just too good. We've got, what, 4, 5 quarters left in of this classic of the legendary Le Mans. Here we go there. Munoz tries to go on the inside of Kelso, but Kelso still remains. Munoz is surely going to try something. Kelso slightly offline there. It's going to leave him exposed into the final 2 quarters. Well, Munoz has been superb here, going into turn 13. It's all in for Munoz on this. Shape shot character and Munoz in the final corner. And the French Grand Prix victory in 2025 to Jose Antonio Rueda, who can't quite believe his heart. To Rueda. He's let us start with his best in the Grand Prix. A 1:20.966. What's the old saying? To win the lottery, you have to buy a ticket, and he was there. Absolute heartache. All of the extreme for Kelso. He must have thought when he braked to go into turn 13, he had the win in his back. Munoz, he knew, yeah, it's going to be ultra aggressive on the inside. Contact between Munoz and Kelso, leaving the door wide open, clear, wide open track into the final corner for Jose Antonio Rueda, and he makes it 4 wins out of 6. Because Kelso had already gone wide the corner before they switch up at the door. Munoz had to try that from my point of view. It was the final corner going through, and he had to go for it, and he's fairly up alongside Kelso, of course, tipped it in to try and fend off contact between the two. I have to say, if I was in Darren Munoz's shoes, I'd have tried exactly the same thing. He going for a first win. Ultimately, though, it cost him tear on them to let everyone get through for a 4th win of the year. Yeah, Munoz and Kelso still away their first win. Wassac, thank you very much. In terms of championship, that's huge as well, isn't it? Kenny contact from Munoz and Kelso runs both of them off the racetrack and just accepting the present on the inside. Jose Antonio Rueda. Well, he's going to take some stopping, isn't he? Munoz has been given a 1-position penalty for irresponsible riding. Well, that's going to drop it then from 2nd to 3rd. I think it's going to be a rather fruity post-race interview with Aussie Joel Kelso. Richigamme did so much of the running, didn't he? Led from pretty much the first lap until two this Ultron. Munoz was always going to try it. He wasn't just going to sit in second place and accept T2. T3 for Danny Munoz. Yeah, I think it was Fallon Bosa went off the track as well. That was what sort of was going to grab the attention of the FIM stewards. Oh, well, pre-race, Nicky Ayer said this is a race where you have to just be smart and make sure you finish. Well, his rider was smart, and crucially, he finished first. 4 wins in 6, Jose Antonio Rueda. Let's get to Nicky Ayer's thoughts for Jan. Nicky, that feels like a big one. The look definitely in your favour at the final corner, but you've got to be there to pick up the pieces with Angel crashing out as well. Feels like a big one for the championship. Yes, of course, I think it's a little bit of a thing back up to get on. Obviously, we had some bad luck there with the wicket and Winston second. Yeah, that's an awesome door. What a feeling. So, 19-year-old Jose Antonio Rueda, just the 22nd rider in Moto3 history to win back-to-back races. The first KTM rider to win 2 in a row since Ivan Ortona in over 2 years. An unexpected victory, I'm sure, when he came through, turn 12 on that last start. Probably 80% of his brain was thinking, well, third is not bad, but I'm sure there was a small time in thinking, this is David Munoz. He's going to for sure attack Kelso, and maybe I'll be there to pick up the pieces. Well, you have to be in it to win it. And that's exactly what Jose Antonio Rueda did. As he mentioned, we said that with it back in the commentary, if he was ever to find a way through Juan Munoz at Kelso, his lead would stretch out for 29 points. So whatever happens at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time, you'll be heading home to Aragon as the world championship leader. It's going to be set the fault annually. A lot of Rueda's wins, in fact all of Rueda's wins, have been in a similar manner. He's led from the front of the race and just talked clear of a group. Didn't do that on that in that case. He had to fight for that and fight hard, but in the end was the correct come to him in those final 2 corners. The 25 points fell neatly into his lap. So Rueda then moves on to 116 points. Yeah, I guess mixed emotions for Joe Kelso, because having done so much hard, he's been consoled a little bit there by team boss Alessandro Tanucci. It looks like he's got a face of thunder. You might have seen that in the sunglasses. David Munoz, well, he's a fiery character, it's bad to say, when he's got the visor down, and you knew it was coming, never guess. It was never going to just sit behind Kelso and say, there you go, mate, you win the French Grand Prix. You win your big race. Alvaro Carte, there's a very good reason why he's got a big smile on his face, because there were times in that Grand Prix where he clearly had podium pace. His challenge probably hindered by the fact he started from down on the split throat of the grid in 13 spots. Right, that was a pretty, wasn't it, to kick off out of Chapter 6 in the 2025 Moto3 World Championship, as Jose Antonio Rueda's triple touch continues. Wins in Buram, in Kota, last time out in Jerez, and now he wins a classic finale to that battle here in Le Mans. That's his 5th Grand Prix victory. He moves into double figures in terms of podium finishes now. And as we said, boy, he'd led up 57 laps so far this season. Well, I mean, like I said, that record he ticked, and it was the most important one when all said and done. Yep, that's a KRS route to victory today for Jose Antonio Rueda, a 29-point World Championship lead, and that's all with a mechanical DNF. Big Qatar, had he not had some misfortune on that particular Sunday night, just how far up the championship order would Rueda be relative to his pursuers? Kelso does close in 3rd place. Now he's just 10 points behind Piqueras, who, without question, is the big loser on this Sunday morning in Le Mans, letting the rushed out of that chase group. So here he is then, David Munoz, all in for the win at that final corner. He settles for 3rd place, first podium of the season, and he's with Jack. David 3rd in the end after an incredible last lap battle. Just talk us through from your opinion that final corner. There are many. I pushed in there on the last lap, and he pushed to the swing there last corner, but enough, but well, a good race for the win, and thank you to the team for the working hard work during the weekend. Go to Silverstone. A great ride, well done. Thank you. Yes, a rather turbulent and miserable start to 2025 thankfully comes to an end for the Spaniard David Munoz. Last corner, and the win at stake, your first win as well. Had to go for it, didn't he? He'd have had a roller keep of his team if he'd have just sat behind Joel Kelso and not at least made the attempt. What's going through the mind there right now is not just Kelso, but Jose Antonio Rueda. We quite just can't believe his luck. All's fair in love and war, maybe at the end of it, we'll find out. Now he's passed a leak bit of time to didn't look at us this year, still turning back. See from Joel Kelso, who did so much of the leading in that Grand Prix. Your heart goes out to the Aussie, because he was absolutely phenomenal here in France. Second for Kelso, he's a champ. Joel, I imagine heartbreak after that one, dominated the race, leading it almost from start to finish. Just how disappointed is he to miss out like that at the final corner? Honestly, mate, I have no words about what happened at the last corner, but anyways, let's not speak about that. Let's speak about the positive that we did a perfect race. We'll fitness the whole race, and we made a couple of mistakes. We fixed them up, and all of a sudden improved half a second. Had pretty decent pace with the conditions like this, and I'm just really happy that we're really, really strong no matter what happens in any situation. So yeah, I'm just gonna look at the positive guy. I don't have anything else to say about the last corner. A great performance, well done. Cheers, mate. think the phrase is a tight-lipped Joe Kelso in terms of what happened at the final corner. And quite rightly, he's looking at the glass half full, isn't he? Because he did ride one of the best Grand Prix of his career. It's a cruel game, but there's no easy wins, are there, in the Moto3 World Championship, and I'm sure his time will come. Kelso has shown great pace. Back-to-back podiums for the 21-year-old from Australia for the first time in his Grand Prix career, and consolidates his place inside the top three in the well, he led that Le Mans Grand Prix. come your way. Of course, Moto2 will be up next. Over 22 laps. That will be, our coverage will start in just under 2 minutes' time. So we'll take advantage of taking a short breather here at the commentary box, and we'll see you at the top of the hour at midday. Before we fade. Established as the home of the French Grand Prix for the last 25 years, Le Mans hosts round 6 of MotoGP's record-breaking season. The Bugatti circuit is world renowned for endurance races, but MotoGP takes top billing today in this motorsport mad part of France. A nation expects as like a pagan national toll, whether for lift off in Le Mans, it's time to race in MotoGP. Good afternoon and welcome back to legendary Le Mans. Welcome back to the Bugatti circuits. Speaking of the lives, a big start coverage shot in Michelin up in France for Moto2 in just about 2 hours' time. It'll be lights out for the MotoGP action as Marc Marquez looks to behind him. The disappointment of crushing out in front of its own crowd in Jerez 2 weeks ago. He's already got a lot of that disappointment behind him. To be fair, I mean, one of those 6 consecutive Tissot sprint yesterday will show him clamber to the back or back to the top of the MotoGP World Rankings. 2 points split the Marquez brothers at the top of the leaderboard. Of course, the home crowd here expecting big performances from their heroes, Fabio Quartararo and Gian Zarco. Big performance expected. The questions about the weather in about 2 hours' time when MotoGP gets underway, because we are expecting Lady will keep everything crossed in the buildups. And I've looked up was the podcast predicting a little bit more rain after a damp start to our 6th race day of the season. We've already had a brilliant Moto3 race to get us underway so far here in France. Don't worry, no spoilers here in the commentary box, as we're now a full focus here in Le Mans on the battle for glory in the Intermediate World Championship. A battle right now which looks like it's very much in the more than capable hands of Spanish rider Mario Gonzalez, who victorious looks kind of outstanding for the sad crowd in her back to the top of the Moto2 World Championship, and he's been on some good to get there at Le Mans in a qualifying session yesterday that took place at that glorious sunshine. Gonzalez powered to his 5th pole position in the opening 6 Grand Prix, and in his stage dry, which we expected to, well, he's a clear big favourite to take another 25 points in our 22-round battle. Pit lane, I guess to us after the rain started falling this morning. And given what happened to him in Austin a few weeks ago, there's been a mighty relief rider starting from pole position. Manu Gonzalez has had his issues in wet conditions in 2025. He was awful in the wet conditions in Austin, so he struggled, and he was convinced to go for dry, but for weather the tyres, dry tyres in a wet, which ultimately forced him to jump to the back of the field and finish a lap behind the winner. Back with it was this man, Jake Dixon, who starts at the back of the second row. Certainly the evidence of practice so far this weekend is that if Gonzalez is able to convert the pole position he starts from into the lead at the end of the first lap, he's got the pace to go away from the rest. But can the field behind stop that from happening? Yeah, no surprise at all to see Gonzalez on the front row and leading the grid. As we just mentioned, 5 poles already so far this season. He has not started lower than second as yet in 2025. A couple of surprise names out alongside him as we welcome back onto the front row for the second time in the last 4 Grand Prix. It's just his second career front row. Barry Baltus, the Belgian, I guess this is about as close he gets to racing at home. The fantastic racing rider, he was second out and come through Q1. And Diogo Moreira, he's on the front row as well. And the impressive Brazilian Moreira on the front row for just the 4th time in Moto2. The 21-year-old Brazilian, he's been top 5 in 3 about first 5 Grand Prix so far this season. Dueled over a dry starting grid for this Moto2 race. We're hoping that stays the same. There are still 1 or 2 ominous grey clouds around, but the forecasted rain for today is expected to come later in the afternoon. So here is Manu Gonzalez, whose qualifying record is extraordinary so far this season. All told, second, all told, good told yesterday. Bit pole position already out of 6 in this 2025 season, which he has converted, of course, into 2 victories already this season. And starts as the heavy pre-race favourite. There's no question now that Barry Baltus here, standing next to him on the front row of the grid, is the best bowler of his Grand Prix career, and the closest thing to a home Grand Prix for the Belgian. Gonzalez with the second rider in Moto2 history. There's been a lot of talented riders to come through Moto2. To have 5 dollars in the first 6 Grand Prix. Stefan Rowley back in 2011. To go on 2025. And Barry Baltus is having second place on the grid. I'm sure they've adopted him here in France, coming from nearby Belgium. Let's get a thoughts of Baltus. He's on the grid, the giant. Barry, in great form at the moment. Front row starts, and I imagine there's plenty of Belgian fans here cheering you on. How do you feel ahead of the race? Well, yeah, we're feeling good since the beginning of the weekend. Let's try to take profit of this first row and try to enjoy the weather to us. Everybody's look like maybe some rain, but we are ready for everything, and we're ready to enjoy it. Good luck, have fun. Thanks, Jack. It's a very different Barry Baltus in 2025. He scored points in all 5 Grand Prix so far, with 3 top 6s, 4 top 10s, and of course that delived podium last time out in Spain. Completing the front row, still there on the go is Diogo Moreira, as we look at Tour de France superstar Matt Cavendish sharing a word there with Jake Dixon, who starts on that second row. Also on the second row of the grid is Albert Arenas for the Grassini squad. Let's get his thoughts on the grid. We check. Albert, another great performance in qualifying. How do you feel ahead of the race? What do you think we can expect? Yeah, we've done the work. The feeling is good. And what's about again, the qualifying, I think the over for doing is good, and I'm confident that we can put a good race. Manu has a best pace than the most of us. But these conditions maybe can tighten things up. Let's see, I want to be calm and super focused and trying to enjoy the race and fight until then. Good luck. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Shirley, number 75. Let's qualify top 4 in the last 3. He's converted a few of those good qualifying performances in the top 10 results. 60 goals last time out in a race, which was his first top 6 in 18 Grand Prix. was Catalunya last year, although playing alone for this weekend is the Spanish rider for Gresini Racing, Lewis. So yeah, we lost Darren Binder for the rest of the weekend after a crash on Friday morning into Schmallenberg when he ran into the back of Zonta van den Gorberg. Van den Gorberg is competing this weekend despite a cracked bone in his foot. Unfortunately, though, a broken left arm for Darren Binder. The league's also got a broken nose, has ruled him out of the rest of this weekend. We hope to see Binder back in a couple of weeks' time at Silverstone. Jake Dixon's home Grand Prix, of course, posing with the boss. And the instantly recognisable figure of Mark van der Straten there, who, of course, has enjoyed plenty of success down the years in Moto2. 3 times they've won the World Championship. We're standing in their way, potentially, to have a 4th world title in 2025. Who's certainly going to be Dynamo in GP rider Manu Gonzalez, flying away from his 5th pole in 6. What about his wild coach, Tom Luke? What does he make of it, Jack? Tom, another weekend where Manu has been stuck all the way through, pole position again. We've seen this story before. Is it going to have the same ending? We talked about how impressive he is already in the past, and this every day even more impressive. I mean, he's doing a very good job overall the weekend, and he's still staying very, very calm, focused. This is the race. Yeah, let's see how this one pans out. So, pole position in Le Mans is not really been so that should be starting place, but you look at Moto2 history, he had 2 wins from Toll in previous Moto2 battles, putting up at TX2, but he went on to win the World Championship. And most recent win from Toll, he was Raul Fernandez 4 years ago in 2021. A very nice cadet Dixon then go from your 2nd row. Further back now, Philip Salach. He would first ever World Championship podium here in Le Mans in Moto3 back in 2021, in 2nd year in 2023 in Moto2. So keep an eye on Sats heading road 3 in 7th. He's got Alonso Lopez and Celestino Vietti the company on that 3rd row. And all up the school row. 3rd row the grid, Mandalay Obrulat. Told him here a year ago. Sergio Garcia, Igor and Alonso Lopez blocking out the podium for the Buscascoro chassis. 5 of them start in line, 6 through to 10, which includes Celestino Vietti here on screen. Look good on Friday. Usually we don't see the best of Vietti until the business end of Saturday and into Sunday. The Grand Prix that he missed here last year, but the last time that Celestino Vietti did race here and finished just off the podium. All they're looking to move forward in a race which, I say, we hope remains dry, but certainly information on the grid for both bouncers is that rain is not out of the question in the next 45 minutes. And we did see briefly Alonso Lopez middle of that 3rd row of the grid. Started a nice 2 Moto2 battles here in the Moto3 Spaniard, although he has been struggling for form of late after that Austin podium when he was 3rd in Texas. He has not scored a point since. Confirmation on your screens that David Alonso, who absolutely dominated the Moto3 action here in Le Mans last year. He's had to serve a long lap penalty. It's one thing to do with what's happened this weekend in Le Mans. If you cast your minds back to the Spanish Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, he pattered into Ethan Guevara, of course, another former Moto3 world champion himself, still nursing quite a pain in the left foot is Guevara. To full waist coming up him, started from 15th place in that nasty collision early on in Jerez. We'll see Alonso serve along that here in level 18th for Garland, 15th, 4 places behind his 10. It's what the other riders just ahead of Arbolino actually. He starts 11th, just ahead of him in 10th. It is Ivan Ortola, best qualifying so far for the QJ Moto3 MSI rookie on board that Buscascoro. Certainly the Italian chassis is much more competitive here than we were at any stage in Jerez. Surprised Tony Arbolino is still not doing a rain dance at the side of that Buscascoro chassis, because we know how strong that Tiger Tony is in rain conditions. He had that podium, did he, over in Austin, but there's been just 1 point in the 2 Grand Prix since. All riders on the grid have gone for the same tyre combination, by the way, for this Moto2 race, and that is the SC1 front tyre, soft front tyre, and the super soft SC rear. But Rizan number 4, Ivan Ortola. It's the first time we've seen him call his way inside the top 10 in Moto2. Saw he was here last year, very climbs to the Moto3 podium. 6th place he was in those tricky conditions over in Austin. That remains his only point scoring finish in the April 5 Grand Prix. With a bit of a baptism of fire in Moto2 for the Spanish rider. He did this on TV. We saw changing visors over a couple of moments ago as he got ready for this Moto2 encounter out of 22 laps on tube. Second Grand Prix weekend in a row. We've seen him break the lap record in practice, but not quite convert that into a good position in line with his potential. Unchu has to go from the front of the fifth row in 13. He and Aegis on that fifth row of the grid will believe they've got the potential to go forward from there. Aegis, buoyed by that brilliant podium from the front row last time out in Jerez. It keeps him firmly in the early hunt for the top 6 in the championship, but it works though for the Aussie. So now the grid then for this 22 laps. French Grand Prix in Moto2 features the Taltramps racing team rider Diogo Moreira, his first front row in 8 Grand Prix, just his 4th in the Moto2 World Championship, middle of the front row. In banging form, Barry Baltus. He's qualified the front row in 2 of the last 4 Grand Prix, but he's been unstoppable on Saturday so far this year. Manu Gonzalez, the big pre-race favourite here in France, largely from his 5th pole position in 2025. It's dry for now for Moto2 at Le Mans. Crashes will it stay that way? Manu Gonzalez certainly hopes so. He starts from a thick pole position out of 6 in 2025. Barry Baltus equals his best ever qualifying in 2nd. Diogo Moreira on the front row for the first time this year. Row 2, we find Alvaro Reynolds, Harry Cadet and Jake Dixon. Cadet and Dixon, of course, 2nd and 3rd in the World Championship. Philip Salach has looked good in practice. He'll be able to move forward from 7th. He's got Matera Boscoscoros, Alto Lopez, Justin Ovietti next to him. Ivan Artola, Tony Arbolino, and David Alonso has long that penalty on row 4 for Unchu Aegis and Guevara. And Sergio Garcia, his best qualifying of the season so far, despite the crashes today, in 16th. Ramirez and Navarro, Colivaya, Zontsev and Ngorpo, the Dutch Terry, over 7 and of Danny Volcano having his toughest Moto2 weekend today. To John Roberts and Yuri Sasaki and Adrian Quetas on the 8th row, and of Yuki Kundi and Danny Munoz for the forward team, who was parachuted in place of the engine Alex Estridge, who crashed on Friday. Finished spinning right through the mill here this weekend, as if actually Gonzalez will just be praying, as it does seem to go a little bit darker once again here in Le Mans under this heavy grey cloud cover. You can see he will not want rain at all. He's been really struggling, wasn't he, in Austin? As Zonta van den Gorber then gets perched and ready to go for this 22-lap race. Sadly from pit lane, just if he tries to race to black, only button 2. If it does lane midway through the race, then the likeliest scenario, unless it only splits with green, is that they will red flag up the race. Manu Gonzalez pulls on to pole position then, and really the key to this first lap of the race is get ahead of this man. If he leads at the end of the first lap, expect him to have the kind of race pace with him to fall clear. Converted 2 of his previous poles this season, edge victories in our season over in Buram, and also last time out in Jerez. Now in Baltus, what a win it would be for him. Close day, of course, in Belgium. The green flag clears at the back, so all of these frightening grey clouds here in Le Mans. We set the race action. Lights at my race to the Moto2 here and the Bugatti circus. A really good start for pole position. By Gonzalez, he starts clicking through the gears on that tri-agent. He's got the top of the field. Around there in 2nd place. Looks like Dix has already got himself up into 3rd spot. Going a long way was Baltus. Moreira though, aggressive on the inside of Gonzalez into that territory. It is Moreira that leads. Yeah, Baltus just following backwards. You got a decent initial launch. You got swallowed up through turns 1 and 2. That's just at the inside of our tower there. He's running in 6th place. Steve, very aggressive, wasn't he? Behind Moreira then from 3rd place on the grid. Then he's your early leader in this French Grand Prix. Philippe Sartre on the trial block. We know how much he loves them on. Cody was here in Moto3 and in Moto2. He's been a fast starter, 7th to 4th to the Czech rider. But back in Qatar, Manny Gonzalez felt he was too patient too early on and too cautious to his tyres. Don't expect that kind of approach this time. He's surely not able to sit behind Moreira and any longer than he expected. Really worn out to second museum corner was the 30 bike of Chelsea de Vietti, who's down in 11th place, having started in 9th spot into turn 9. Shimano back for the first time then. Moreira from Gonzalez, Dixon there is 3rd place. Colin Ryer has been an early forward that is Dutch by the looks of it, isn't it? Bike facing the wrong way down the racetrack, so it's not really a good first lap for the Dutch pairing. That's been an absolute horror show, isn't it, here? Ahead of the board, upside for Moreira, 32% now into Richigamme. Turn 13 to complete this first lap. Bautis already recovering. He got a lump scrap here already on. Inside of the arrow. Albert Arenas, then it's Moto3, 7th and Autumn 8. He's a good start for 10th on the grade on the Fusca chassis. Arenas trying to cut back here at Bautis. But once again, just getting swallowed up down towards turn 1. Yeah. Arenason got back through. Dixon was charging him up down into that launch again. That might just compromise the Brit a little bit of his exit speed now as they crash down into La Chapelle. As his Marbides racing teammate Salach right on his case. You just see Dixon there, that mistake he made into 3. Just first let Moreira and Gonzalez get away. Bautis barging past Arenas once again. Constant link between the pair coming to La Chapelle, and it cost Bautis, it cost Arenas not only the 5th place, but also 6th. Lopez also looking to go through, but Arenas have able to defend that one. I couldn't notice there was almost out the scene there as well as you squeeze the power on coming out of Mesian corner. There he is on the 80 bike. And he just does have to serve a long lap penalty, surely for his correct collision with Guevara. Looking comfortable on the foot of this Grand Prix. Very early doors, of course, is Moreira. We're looking now towards the Brazilian. This is on board with top starter Gonzalez. They're looking now out of Shimanoverse. Trial of the brakes now into turn 11. Back to 2nd gear. In case of the first phase of the race, isn't really a proper of Diogo Moreira historically. He tends to fade, though, in the latter stages. We've seen it on a couple of occasions when he's lost late podiums to Senna Regis already in this Grand Prix. Good check on me, Australian. He's still outside the points in 16 to 12. This has been a strong first lap for Senna. Strong start for Moreira and co. That's this rider on circuit is Bautis, a 135 giant size of 4-2. Look at him, man. 6th place. He's starting to charge towards Salach there in source. Helicopter shot picks up this lead. In fact, Bautis, he was to come from so far back to make that move on Salach. Into 3. What a move that was by Bautis, fastest rider on circuit. And now he really is starting to make inroads towards Dixon, Gonzalez, and Moreira. 2 dream cobblers in that first sprint tyre. Each of the ton lap chicane. Awesome by Bautis. You must see it is good news that Moreira's leading the race, keeping Gonzalez well and truly under control at the moment. I'm not allowing Manu to show his electric taste at the front of the race. So one the rider who lost out on this first lap, just noticed it. Richigamme back in 10th place. I think he's just passed Alonso. Here they come into picture. Alonso still not coming to any lap salute. He's got one more opportunity next lap around to serve that. Looking it on the rear guard action early on. Italy on Italy. There's Zagatti ticking off Arbolino for 11th spot there, further down into garage van. Yeah, the lead group just sort of cheated me back up to here. They're behind Moreira on the 10 bike. And now here comes Otto. He's going to start on these Dixon there as we're starting to esper flames popping out of the exhaust, starting Lunas. That's Tony Arp leader, is it? And he's on the 14 bike. Well, he just been passed up by Vietti into Garage Wreck up and now Altus. Well, he's making mincemeat of the Marbides duo right now because on that third lap he has passed both Salach and now he's passed Dixon, 80 Richigamme. Arenas is the fastest rider on circuit That back mid 6th place from David Baltus is on fire near Le Mans. Watch out for Manny Gonzalez here. He was only a little up through turn 2, but no way through on Moreira through there. It would also put you on the outside, mind the first card at the Gunwash chicane. Yeah, Baltus initially set the fastest lap of the race himself before he was beaten by Arenas, and that was all whilst overtaking Jake Dixon. So he's got some supreme pace and supreme confidence at this early stage. And with Moreira still holding the front of the race, Baltus very quickly cruising up to the back of Manny Gonzalez. 10 years since we got a Belgian winner in Grand Prix racing. Livio Lai in Moto3 and Xavier Simeon the same year in Moto2. So this is a very rare occurrence. For Belgian fans will be loving the early part of this French Grand Prix. Just saw there Gonzalez's rear tyre lifting down the hill on the brake. Just shows you how hard and tricky that down of Viking zone is. Richigamme is there with that trolley rear tyre just lifting off the ground. Just saw Alonso the contradiction setting his lap penalty. He's now rejoined by Gonzalez into the lead there. It is just a move he had to make, particularly with Baltus closing in. Yeah, he's finally there and hit the front. Manny Gonzalez, before moving to turn 9, we now are strong. Baltus is in this final sector, particularly going into turn 13. Perfect time to get to your Moreira. Oh boy, with the rear tyre. But here comes Baltus. Got Dixon right here on the previous, that not placed the boat to attack Moreira. How tight do you want to here in Moto2 in Le Mans? Gonzalez it is down. Sets his personal best up with this race at 135.594, and now with clear track ahead of the Spaniard. What can he do to potentially break up this pack? Yeah, necessarily tighter than Manny Gonzalez would want it. Silver Moreira shows the front wheel looking to come back through. That's a rain. That's attacking for this Salat. So Sergio expected to go forwards, has now lost that fifth place to Albert Arenas. Moreira, who we know is quite tenacious, isn't he, in these battles? Usually when he hits overtaken, he's really quick to try and strike back again. He's going to be Manny Gonzalez. That'll be an impressive feat. He's a tough nut to crack. He's the Brazilian, no question about that. Moreira, we've seen it a couple of times already this season where they just have hefty battles. We see here Arenas, then Salas further back. The Dolomites team was jostling those two because they're going to start getting the text from that top 4, and it'll also bring into context the likes of Canet, Lopez and Vietti just behind them. They drop them down. That's through Garage there. Still trying to recover, isn't he, from that poor first lap. He's now gone through a bolt tire, so he's up to 7th time. He's connected his postal best last time around on the 35.3. He was faster than the lead. In fact, he was the fastest rider would track last time around. The problem for him, though, is he's 2 seconds off the lead, and with 6 riders ahead of him. Well, it comes to the spectacle. The good news is for us neutrals is he's only been at the front for a lap, but Manny Gonzalez at the moment is not really looking to clearly strike away from the likes of Moreira and Baltus. In fact, Moreira was very good on the brakes at the end of turn 13 because we what's this is in this final sector, but he's not really getting close to Moreira and to attack. Here is Gonzalez, they're now fastest rider on circuit, fastest ever this Grand Prix. The race record on 35.220. That's the true on Albert Arenas. This is the lead into the Richigamme. This is now for 6th place, clearly. Some taste for Harry Cadet, but he's stuck in quite a lot of traffic. Next rider up ahead of him is the second Boston Salat. Look at Gonzalez under a bit of pressure here coming out of the Richigamme. Moreira is climbing all over him under pressure, big time. This was not any pre-race Gonzalez spit, was it at all? You know, I had a dream, maybe. Here we go to them now. Into the museum corner. Gonzalez, Moreira, Baltus, Dixon, big interest for him, of course, as well, because he maybe potentially to get the piece of some drama ahead of him. And while this sort of battle stabilises at the front, coming back into contention, you've got Salat, Canet, Arenas, Lopez, top 10s right now as well for Ortola and Vietti. Good ride that by Ortola. So his best try makes the appearance of the season so far, capitalising on that season best 10th on the grid. There must have been a small mistake for Gonzalez in that first sector because he was set a fast lap of the race and was down the top clear a little bit of Moreira. His lead was a quarter of a second, and the next time we saw him, Moreira was crawling all over to give him as Baltus shafts into the next support. Of course, Baltus at the moment, he doesn't need to rush this, sitting in third place, knowing that Gonzalez isn't pulling clear too much at the front of the field, but Baltus was ever to take a maiden Moto2 victory. This would be the place he chose, the nearest thing to a Grand Prix. And certainly the whole reason, you can't rule it out. Love watching Baltus, he's all action, is the climb rate also with the top of that static racing machine. Gonzalez lead over Moreira just on the 2/10 of a second as we got seeing lap 7 out of 22. Further back there is Arenas. He's being shortly pursued by fellow Spaniard Lopez. There's still Ortola and Vietti. Ninth in 10th. Garcia, Holgado, Aegis, Alonso and Guevara are your toilet scoring finishers as it stands right now. It's good to see Sergio Garcia back on something approaching his old form once again. Got into Q2 for the first time yesterday, of course, winner of this Grand Prix last year. He's just outside the points, being 11th place, finally getting his 2025 season up and running. Didn't just win the Grand Prix here last year, he battered the field and he led every lap. A cruise to victory by over 3 seconds. He actually left Le Mans 1 year ago, leading the World Championship by 7 points, but there's no win seats for Garcia. So yeah, as Lewis mentioned, it is good to see him starting to fire on all cylinders once again. Get the front, these Gonzalez tipping it left into turn 9. This is where he took the lead a couple laps to go from Moreira. He runs that slightly wider line to the outside curb, the Moreira and Bautas behind him, but once again, he's just been able to break his lead to close to 3/10 of a second, 3/3 around this. So lap 9, this Dixon just starting to find his place a little bit too hot at the front of the race. He's reversing back towards his teammate Selach at this stage of the race. Let's check the lap tip. This, of course, that we're doing. Nick Wooden mistakes between his life. I tried to steer a quick lap from Gonzalez. A 35.2 for him, 35.5 for Dixon in 4th place. And personal best for Selach, maxed by Cadet. And we've got a 3-rider battle out for the lead, and it's looking like we're going to soon have a 3-rider battle for 4th place. We saw Juice move himself back up into the pleasure. The rubbing elbows on the exit of that unlock chicane. So it is Bautas that comes out the better of it. And now Bautas moves up into 2nd place. As you were in terms of how your top 3 started this Grand Prix. Gonzalez, Bautas and Moreira. Half a second then back to Jake Dixon, who really has it trawled his way back right into the thick of this podium battle as yet. Although, given the fact that Giovan Moreira never left any position up without almighty fight, that cost the pair of them time there as Moreira tried to pull his way back through into the second part of the Dunlop game. Bautas in the end out of all of that. 3/4 of a second it drifted Gonzalez. Once he got the move done, he has to go into the line back. I went to the second sector and putting a bit of space between himself and Moreira, and all out that Giovan Moreira is that you could do with a bit of space between yourself and the Brazilian if he wants to make an attack. Yeah, a lot of riders come back in his Moto2 races wearing some blue paint. Don't they? Moreira is not shy in the heat of battle. Gonzalez just is starting to stretch his legs here. His advantage over Bautas in the 3rd sector was 6/10 of a second, so he's already told out a gap of about 3/10 on this latest circuit. He's about to then a complete lap 8 of 22. Over the line we go. Gonzalez's lead is just under 6/10. His gap the Brazilian by almost half the second immediately has Bautas. What's important there is that the team are informing Manny Gonzalez. It's now Bautas that's next up behind you, not Diogo Moreira. And that played to Bautas actually, even having lost all that time in the overtake with Moreira, he was still as quick as Gonzalez over the course of the full lap. So Bautas now falling, taking a 10 back in the 1st sector. This is not the many Gonzalez wants a victory you're expecting. Yeah, and connects that little bit quicker than the 2 Mark VDS riders ahead of him. Salach and Dixon. So Cadet certainly sending another bloody ball on the table. The Nat 6 box, 7 still for Reyes. Lopez, Vietti and Ortola still battling inside that top 10. That's just so aggressive, isn't he? All the way into the corners, he absolutely throws that Calix at the corner to garage there. He was a little bit loose, but it's certainly worked out for him. He continues to close in on the race lead. Yeah, some important 10-star percentage to be salvaged here for Aaron Kinnett, but certainly he's a podium in the optic day. I mean, he's only 2.1 seconds off the lead and just over a second off Diogo Moreira, who sits in 3rd place. But Regis is now given a long whack penalty. Perhaps he's taken a shortcut so we're not giving up the time. So there certainly won't be a second consecutive visit to the podium for the Aussie. Yeah, not an easy weekend as it for Aegis. Manu Gonzalez's teammate found himself down in 14th place on the grid. We'll see if it was up with this. Just about as the shortcut at turn 9 is the reason why Aegis has to serve his long lap penalty. Bautas has just said his fastest lap with this Grand Prix so far, a 1:35.229, which was only a smidgen faster when Gonzalez ahead of him. And Dixon also picking up some speed as we have trudged to the halfway stage, a 1:35.4 as from the bricks. He started to really hunt down Moreira now, looking that battle for 3rd. Salax then, who's now lost covered it, plays to Aaron Kinnett. Kinnett has to get on with this. There's a podium here, potentially in the offing. Slow Aaron Kinnett, having started from that second row and lost 5 places on that first lap. He's now well his way to winning, then back again. Kinnett is now back where he started. One rider is also starting to suffer at this stage of the race. Is Arenas in 7th place. The Grassini rider, you can see him now starting to get a little bit detached from Salax up ahead of him and potentially falling into the clutches of Alonso Lopez. Arenas' 1 lap pace is not up for debate, is it? So far this season, qualifying top for the last 3, but his ability to manage the pace over the longer distances, they got always down once again. This was coming. We said on the previous lap, Kinnett was quicker than both Salax and Dixon ahead of him. They slipped down to 14th place, so on lap 1 was that in, where was that in? Qatar, wasn't he? Yeah, he forced his way back through to the victory. So Kinnett's in recovery mode once again. The front, look at this start. This gap is coming down, corner by corner. Gonzalez has got some big bother coming in here. Bounce from Bouncer, stay on tower to the final Jordan. Good start, lap 11. At 22, halfway stage, and now they both exchange fastest touch of this Grand Prix. But 1:34, 9:41 from Bouncers, the first 1:34 lap of this Grand Prix. And this is game 1 here in Le Mans. And no one can match their pace. The Moreira's in the mid-35s in 3rd place. He's now with the thick end of 2 seconds off the way. Sash back in the 36s now in 6th place, having been overtaken by Kinnett. This is very much a 2-horse race for victory in Le Mans. That is the first ever 1:34 race lap in Moto2 history here in Le Mans. That just gives an indication of hammer down mode here from Boutas. Gonzalez just cannot relax for a millimetre around this 4.1 kilometre Le Mans circuit gate. Clear daylight there now between Gonzalez and Boutas. 32 seconds, Moreira now has slipped away from 2nd place. And he's going to be all on out there to stand off the likes of Dixon, Kinnett and Salax. He's generally quite a cool customer, isn't he, Manu Gonzalez? Swinging up and here for him on the grid, said he's so relaxed and so confident, but this is going to be a test of the nerves of the World Championship leader. The victories we've seen from Gonzalez so far this year have been with relative comfort. Blazing clear from the front of the field in the season opener in Burham. Did the same in Jerez a couple of weeks ago, but he said he had to fight hard for this one with the current form of Boutas. And just could be not only winning this Grand Prix, he might well be wrestling 3rd place away from Jake Dixon in the World Championship. What, just a completely different rider, isn't he, this year, Barry Boutas? Completely galvanised, reinvented by that switch over to Bantic Racing. Back in the 133s on that previous, that no great surprise, because that 134 was right out of control, wasn't it? And now connects. We said the Revo Sarge was coming and the Revo Dixon was coming as well. He finds a way through on that sweep into turns 3 and 4, and that connects. But really is fancying a scrappy with Moreira for this podium battle. And it's a key for his teammate as well to do him a bit of a favour at the front of the field and take that choice away from Medellin Gonzalez, with Kinnett bringing 4th place. Got the flag out now. There you can see what it would mean for the World Championship. Gonzalez will extend his lead up to 19 points. And as you say, if Boutas can get past Gonzalez and hold it to the flag, he would take that 3rd place in the championship away from Dixon. Yeah, a couple of big carrots being dangled in front of the face here about this maiden victory in 3rd place in the World Championship. I mean, I think it was called that pre-season with the great respect to Boutas. In the CV, didn't really suggest it was going to threaten this kind of form so far in 2025. Look, going to round silly potentially with a win under his belt and top 3 in the World Championship. Well, he's right there for him on that number 7 bike. Gonzalez is doing a great job here, just managing his pace at the front of this Grand Prix. Silveira Navarro's done now, Nick Garage there. Second crash for him in as many days. It's been a weekend where the forward has showed a bit of potential. Navarro was quick on Friday, but unfortunately it's left with no World Championship points. We're waiting him to come into the picture. He very nearly managed to the back there a set of ages in the process before tumbling into the Garage Fair gravel track. Yeah, and a garage with tears for the Clint Forward Racing Garage now. As Gonzalez and Boutas were already on there, lap 13 of 22. The gap just hovering under 3/10 of a second. So good is he going into that Dunlop chicane. He carries great quarter speed. Boutas through turns 1 and 2 where you really do have to stick your neck on the line here in the morning, and then he's able to really gather up some meters on the brakes as well into that Dunlop chicane. And that The rower was Tony, and it's not like they're going to be extinguished maybe very, very quickly. But the march on as in connects, potentially a double podium for the team here. If Cadet can get through on Morera, so actually just a bouncing touch there. Pink and sick. They'll be hoping that Morera fades in the latter stages, as we have seen for him on a couple of occasions earlier this season. But Eric Cadet will already know from what he's seen up ahead of him already in this race, and what he's seen already this season, that Diogo Morera is not a rider that gives any position up easily. Here at his Giro return, the Italian Cadet, he was a bit able, wasn't he, after that brilliant victory in Qatar. Never really figured as a foot-running force at any stage on home turf in Lorette last time out, qualifying 7th and eventually taking the checker flag in 8th. This is more like the quality cadet that we've become accustomed to seeing over the last 3 or 4 years. And there it goes, the move on the inside of the Rera into turn 12. That was a lovely textbook move that by getting on the shorty forward line. It's already too late for him to potentially get himself back into victory contention. Gonzalez and Valentine is split by 3 seconds. Surely Cadet's going to be able to bridge. Well, surely not going to be able to bridge a 3.1 second gap. He has back to lead, and he progressed. Fantastic now. He's just to get as far row from Morera as he can, and he's not so far enough. Morera's just through to the dark chicane. That was always going to happen. He's always got the question. Now look at the chops with Canet. Yeah, Canet's almost at a massive high side as he got on the gas coming out of that Dunlop chicane. Maybe I think that has a little bit of frustration that Morera's already got back through, but look at this bike Cadet. He's going to lose that rear tyre. Kings him right out of the seat on that fancy racing machine. As it's come composure now, he's having a good look at a big straight on the right-hand side there. He's doing a shot of himself almost going to the moon. Here is your front pairing there. They were well clear of that chasing Taj. Gonzalez, she just cannot get away, can he? So Baltus fighting tooth and nail, as you know he would do, with a maiden victory within his grasp. He is giving Gonzalez a much tougher battle I think anybody expected here today, friends. Something I'd pointing out, we are 1 lap 14 as 22. This lap is the final lap at which point we could potentially have a restart in this race. Once we complete lap 14 of 22 in this race, a red flag would see a race stoppage and a result declared if rain does fall in the latter stages. Well, the riders are aware of that. I'm not so sure, but simply when we get into the latter stages now, with the oncoming trips of potential way, you're going to want to make sure you're first in a particular battle, and if you get over the line first, that could potentially lead to a result. Gonzalez wants to get it out. I've been watching over these last shows. He gets brilliant drive out of turn 14, which just allows Baltus, or prevents Baltus from being able to get close to attack him into this Dunlop chicane. Here is Connects instantly fighting back in terms of the position he lost right here on the previous lap. He's got through on Dixon, and so that's put Connect back up into 4th place. The latest rider in Moto2 to learn that if you pass Morera, and you've got to make sure it sticks, because he's going to come right back at you. And it's keeping Alvaro Arenas in this battle as well. It's a 5-way fight this for the final podium position, with the Boscascoros 3rd and 4th in your picture of this group behind me. Calex's and Morera Canet, and then Alvaro Arenas of the Custini fight still very much in touch with this. He could hit Canet once again, spinning up that Pirelli rear tyre on the gas as he came out in the museum corner. He's testing it, he just took to make sure he tries to get a slingshot and to dispense the pesky Morera ahead of him. And there is Morel then, he's still stowing. Connects, and Dixon, Salachi, inside of Chapstrix. Yeah, that goes Arenas. He has shown some great speed at this stage of the race. A little bit shaky, he was aggressive on the throttle out of turn 10, but he's finally got through on Starch. He further back, a solid Metrum going on. So after his only little lap penalty, which drops him out of the points, he's out back ahead of his teammate Danny Holgado into 12th place, and now closing in on Sergio Garcia. He's thinking that 35's actually his own, so there are only 4 or 5 riders up ahead of him that are a bit quicker than him, mate. And it's just to give Marcos Ramirez's pace as well. I mean, he's way down the field in 14th stop line. Now 13th actually is the Spanish rider. He's running podium pace as it stands right now. And Cadet's going to have another go at Morera and into the Dunlop chicane. Now then, is he not going to swing himself skyward on the chicane? No, he's not. Now Morera's going to think it. Okay, you're going to get it soon. He's going to get it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, go on, let's throw him down. I'll pick it up. Cadet then, this time around, having got through on Morera, can he this time around start to break away and tend to have a more comfortably wide, shall we say, to the podium? What would certainly help Cadet is if Jay Dixon gets in there and takes a further place away from the Brazilian, and Dixon looks like he's got the potential to do that. We have then 6.5 laps to go, and still Barry Baltus shadows the World Championship leader. Our point is really running a little bit for Gonzalez. They're still doing mid-35s. They are a good 4 or 5 tenths lap quicker than pretty much anyone else on the racetrack. It is a fast pace, but Gonzalez still can't shake the Belgian off. This big breed by Baltus. Of course, he's bigger the chaser, but he knows, he's seen just exactly where Gonzalez, his strong and weak. Arenas now has got to rely only on Salash, but he's picked off another my BDS bike in the shape of Dixon. Dixon might like that because there's not exactly a lot of love lost between those carrier. Of course, it is seeing Dixon lose more vital World Championship points. He's cleaning on the 3rd overall right now is the breath. There's a trio of Dusky just behind this pair as well. Being on Dieti, Motes and Ortola, battling for 8, Leiden, Cento, for Egon Ortola. That will be his best try where the Moto2 result today. Yeah, last year, Le Mans was a Bosca stomping ground, wasn't it, as they locked out the podium. But this has been tight back, to say the least, from Calax, with Gonzalez, Baltus, Canet, Moreira and Arenas now making it the Calax top 5. They defeated the Prince at the Bosca Ski Ride from about 12 months ago. Still at the front, just nothing. The gap really between Gonzalez and Baltus for the last 7 or 8 laps hasn't been under 2 tenths of a second. We haven't been higher than 4 tenths either. Just nothing between the two of them. But once again, I just keep my eye to sector 2 we go. And again, he's just under 3.5. Says Gonzalez is doing a sterling job, you have to say, the front of this Grand Prix. He just Otis has thrown everything at him from the kitchen, sitting the entire house of the liners go at him. He can still follow that mantle for the lead. It's in the top left corner of your screen from the helicopter shot. Gonzalez is putting a little bit more space between himself and Baltus. Not on this lap, it's now double the lead. It's up to half a second, halfway around this 60th lap from 22. So is Gonzalez now making his definitive move. Next, well, make your way to Moreira, which puts him in a rather precarious position, because if there's a gap, you know that Moreira will somehow find it into recordable we go. Moreira not close enough to attack Canet on this occasion. Already over the line. That Gonzalez and Baltus. And that potentially was a big lap for Gonzalez, because that was, just like we said, the gap's not within the 2 tenths and not higher than 4 tenths. Gonzalez, I've got the message, and he's now half a second clear of Baltus in 2nd spot. Baltus does have really a 5-second gap behind him to his teammate Richigamme, so he doesn't need to necessarily throw the boat out too much here, although I'm sure Baltus desperately wants a first draw pre-victory, but he reaches the point where he accepts that Gonzalez has just got too much pace for him on this particular day, and he does have the luxury of a gap behind him to settle for that 2nd place. Cadet still with very little advantage over Diogo Moreira, at least for Canet from his point of view, that Moreira's mind was occupied not just by a bike ahead of him, but by 3 behind him. Well, fair play to Baltus, he's already recovered a couple of tenths already. Halfway round this lap 18, the gap has come all the way down to 3.5 tenths. Said how good Baltus was in that first sector. Sector 2 also very much to his liking as well, as he's just looking here, isn't he, just to pressure Gonzalez into Cracky to make himself got a mistake. Sector 4, you feel this where Gonzalez has had the upper hand in that battle, particularly coming out of Richigamme at route 14. Alonso has gained another spot. He's now up into 11th place. He's just past Sergio Garcia. And on the last lap, Alonso was as quick as Baltus and only 2 tenths slower than Manu Gonzalez. Had he not qualified back up these 4 pro and had along that penalty, panted out Alonso would have been somewhere in this battle. Yeah, only kicking himself for missing out on one. Looks like a big opportunity. But once again, you can just see Gonzalez how good he is out of that final corner, because once again, he was just able to creep that advantage back up to close to half a second. Battle this, a really intense battle, isn't it? For the final place on the podium, Canet, Moreira, Arenas, Dixon, by Salash, all going toe-to-toe. Bit of a gap there back to Vietti, 2.5 seconds back to the Italian in 8th. The Ortola still running excellent 9th place, with the top 10 completed by Alonso Lopez. That was a poor lap 18 for Lopez, actually, because both Vietti and Ortola got through on the Spaniard. I reckon Canet want a little bit more of a comfort zone than this in this battle for 7th place, got into the final 3 laps, and what Diego Moreira does fine as that. He's had Guevara incidentally has just exited the pits. Now we know Guevara racing here after breaking his foot in that collision with Alonso, and people need to know, as the physicality of this afternoon just got a little bit too much for the 28. It's been a bad day. The Optus hasn't into Blue Creek, Yamaha with Tony Arbolino crushing out of top 10 contention very early on in this Grand Prix. We still see the top left-hand corner history, the battle for the victory. Gonzalez versus Baltas, shortly just 3 laps remaining here in the morning. Fucking 5-way scrap those, and there's a 3rd place as Guevara just explains what his French Grand Prix has got to a premature conclusion. Invisible taking his very soaked up. She was suggesting to his team that he's a bike changing man with a physical problem. With Gonzalez is leading at 7/10 of a second. He's just holding that pace, Gonzalez, in the mid-135s. About us as much for so long. For he looks as if the race, as it enters now its final 3 laps, Altus is just struggling to keep up. I think Gonzalez has just got his measure. He's just got the edge in that final sector. Once again, Altus lost 2/10 in the 4th split. And that's proving to be the decisive phase of the lap here as Rangidas and Dixon get close to each other, dropping down through La Chapelle. In a good ride this by Albert Raider. 6th last time out in the rack was his first top 6 in 18 Grand Prix. So well on course for back-to-back top 6s. It's Balsish just running out of pace late up here in Le Mans. What a great fight, what a great battle he has put up against Gonzalez. Well, Bruce Gonzalez just always managing the pace, managing the tyres, and then thinking, well, he'd have the upper hand in the crucial final phase. It hasn't made a single mistake as Manu Gas, and boy, as Baltas pressured him in the hope of forcing one, and we haven't seen it so far. His pace in recent laps, Gonzalez has just been 35-5, 35-5, 35-5, and ultimately it has finally broken the resistance of Barry Baltas, who's still keeping up so far in this lap. We are now entering that troublesome final sector from a Baltas point of view. And if he'd connect out the extra pace to pull clear of Diego Moreira, he would have done it by now. So this is building up to a grandstand finish in this battle for the final podium position. Him to front, leading with his Moto2 career for Albert Lane, as he's still right in the mix here. And the more Mescarin Tawan, we line him just looks like Salach is tailing off at the back of that groove. Yeah, he's losing touch. Sarge. He's dropped into the 36s, and that's just not pace us anywhere near good enough to get him in this podium battle. So Sarge has now nearly 7/10 back of his teammate Dixon. So he has become detached, unfortunately, has the Czech rider. Look, this would equal Diego Moreira's best result of the season so far if he stays where he is, but he's already had to sit for 4th on 2 previous occasions, having ran in the podium positions for a large stint of those races. It's set Aragius on those 2 occasions, who denied him a podium position, so there is surely going to be a move coming somewhere from Moreira in this final lap and a half. Injection, great quarter speed there through the BZ corner. Yeah, he got great quarter speed through 7 there, and that's why he's able to line up that move at 82 turn 8. That was a beautiful move by Dixon. He laid the foundation sport at about 500 metres back up the ride and made a lovely move there into 8 on the 75 bike of the Brainas. Just looking at the gap yet, this looks like there's a contest at the front. It's game over as far as the Belgians is concerned. What a great ride though it is by the Belgium, because for the very first time it's taken until what, a lap and a half in the conclusion of this French Grand Prix for Baltas to slip a second behind Gonzalez. Just watching when Moreira's potentially going to make a move on connecting and really good run out of Carros there on the last lap and trick to pull upside into Shimano Grove. We have now started the final lap of this Moto2 battle. And Moreira, it's a case of looking sorely rather than it. Moreira's going to make a move, stamping his authority all over the Moto2 World Championship right now is Manu Gonzalez. At the moment, well, of course, for back-to-back victories after his brilliance in a race. Bennett still holding on, still standing firm ahead of this onslaught coming from both Moreira and Dixon. So Vignas and Salach, they really are suffering for pace late on it there in the 36s. On that last lap, Baltas actually also dropped into the 36s. I'm just wondering whether Baltas thought, okay, I haven't got the pace to Gonzalez right now. No sense in trying course to the wind and launching it down the right. So I just wonder if Baltas now has eased off and sat up the second, because he's 6 seconds up the line from Canet. Let's save you. He could come in the fall of Jake Dixon, who's threatening her 4th place here in this final lap. Still, nothing to choose between this trio that are battling for 3rd, 4th and 5th. right, and Moreira, who's trying to thinking where he can make a move on Aragonette, but he can't take his eyes off Dixon in fifth either. Just moving out of your picture there into Shimano Burke was Baltas, who was going to take a sensational second place, or back-to-back seconds for the Spanish rider. Dare we mention Barry Baltas? It was a shock Moto2 World Championship contender. Into the final sector we go. Canet looks like he's got Moreira and Dixon covered as Manu Gonzalez then comes into the final corner here in the Marne. There has been a masterclass and from Manu Gonzalez. Spots are right before the other chatter legs there. Over at the line we go. But your French Grand Prix winner in Moto2 is the dominant Manu Gonzalez. Back-to-back victories in 2025 from pole position sees the wrestler complete control of this year's World Championship. Barry Baltas, back-to-back second places for the super impressive Belgian. On a great ride and a great fight he puts up. Canet then does come out on in third place. Jubilant seems for Atlantic Racing. A fantastic day for them as both their rides finish on the podium. You're just still there. Roberto Lopitelli, follow 125 TC World Champion. Team boss for Atlantic Racing, getting the party started. Very great character for his body. And Moreira led it to himself for fourth. Great ride by the Brazilian. Fifth goes the way of Dixon. A touch sixth for Reina. Seventh for Salach. Top 10 for Vietti, Ortola and Lopez. Point for Alonso, Roberts, Garcia, Aegis and Ramirez. But that was a class ride by a very classy rider. The field in Moto2 have been put on notice. It's going to take some stuff to give the Manu Gonzalez in 2025. And as he very helpfully showed us, that is the third victory of the season for Manu Gonzalez. And another one where he led just about from start to finish. Dougal Moreira, of course, did get to the front of the race on the first lap. But from Gonzalez to he probably had to work harder for it than he might have expected coming into this race. To live into practice, we thought he would just come off at the front of the race and have the French Grand Prix all to himself. But so much credit definitely has to go to Barry Baltas for keeping that one close. So let's go down and get some immediate reaction from pit lane. What another outstanding ride by Dynamo Intact GP rider Dougal Gonzalez. He's turned with a seat. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Jürgen Lingersberg. Here again, another brilliant ride from Manu. He had to be faultless and he was to take victory. A big step. Congrats. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a faultless performance, wasn't it? By Manu Gonzalez. It had to be because Barry Baltas was so strong in second place. We saw, didn't we, on the camera lane as Gonzalez cowered over the line for that third of the season. The rain spots on the camera. And just look at our culture lots window right now as we are an hour of 5 minutes away from the lights out for MotoGP. You can see raincoats being put on. I can see lots of umbrellas going up. The rain started a little bit earlier than what we anticipated. Let's take nothing away though from Manu Gonzalez, who's breathing a big sigh of relief. That was a fast old race to 15 seconds quicker than the race winning time in the ball last year by Sergio Garcia. That just shows how good Gonzalez and Bapt are at the front of that backup. You know, salvaged exhibiting displays once again from Aaron Canet. Another Sunday comeback from a first lap. He was 10th at the end of the first couple of laps and was able to very methodically and calmly dig his way through to the podium. So another fourth place for Diogo Moreira, his third of the season, and just like the previous two, he was right at the podium battle until the very last corner. Ultimately didn't have enough of that final lap to launch the attack. Aragonette keeps of his very strong start to the season. The Moreira is now up to 5th in the World Championship. Took them very hard for Ashton place for Dixon. Did just keep him in third place overall in standings. We love an underdog story, don't we? And that's Barry Baltas to a T. 73 points the Belgian rider has already collected so far this season. He's at a 4th choice behind Jake Dixon, the champion, and Dixon, of course, who's already a 2-time winner in 2025. Points, make big prizes, and back-to-back podiums for Baltas at the C-Sim in the championship. Great ride. There is Jürgen Ling, who just spun to Jack said he did not make a single mistake. He couldn't afford to, could he? Because he had Barry Baltus plus 0.2 plus 0.3 for most of that Grand Prix. I think with what 3-4 laps remaining when Gonzalez just started to hammer home his advantage, I think Baltus in his mind was, I haven't got the taste, there's no sense in throwing it down the road, let's just gather 20 very important points for the championship. Yeah, second there from Dixon, not his weekend, not his day, but when all said and done, I suppose the back there, the obviously is of 5th place and plenty of positives to go. He was winding that panel at the end, wasn't he? It looked like he actually had something from Herrera on that last lap. It's like 5 way back on the 3rd. In the end, Dixon fell right in the middle of it in 5th place. And I mean, he's 3rd place in the World Championship, but he's now just 4 points ahead of Barry Baltus, who's coming in, and even greater threat as we're going through this Moto2 season. Rob Gannett had a race-winning place, but his hopes of a win a race were pretty much over. On the very first lap, when he once again had another Tour first lap, there was no pre-recovery like there was in Qatar a few weeks ago. But it's a case of catch him if you can, isn't it? In Moto2 2025. 5 poles in the opening 6 Grand Prix. That's now 3 wins and 5 podiums. It was only really the weather that threw a curveball in Austin. Well, otherwise, we could be looking at a Moto2 World Championship right now, which I know Gonzalez is already pretty comfortably clear of, but that gap could be 20-25 points and more heading to Silverstone. Out to Arenas, the top 6 for him. In the end, he started 4th, finished in 6th place, but keeps a decent amount of form up for Arenas, who got his best results of the season in Qatar, of a 9th place, and then backed that up with another solid top 10 in Jerez. 6th place here too for the Grassini. A little bit too hard on the exit of the Don Richigamme when he was made in a real strong fight with Diogo Moreira, Jake Dixon, Arenas and Salach were also in that battle at that stage of the race. But right now, there's no stopping Mario Gonzalez. He pops a big stand-up wheel of line, likewise Barry Baltus. And there is Connect taking 3rd place. So what a day to race, just the what it means. Pat's view, the fantastic racing camps, light in the middle of the celebrations. As you can see there was Roberto Lopatelli, who did a stare about Grand Prix winning himself back in the day, didn't he? From the 125cc World Champion, doing a great job with the helm of the fantastic racing squad. No wonder he's got a massive smile on his face. It's another brilliant podium. So Barry Baltus, 2nd here, and he's talking to Jack. as Gonzalez comes over the line. How significant, though, could those rain spots be on our camera lens in terms of the MotoGP race, which will take place in just under an hour's time? With the dry or Whitby rain, except for a flag-to-flag battle, as Barry Valter soaks up the adulation of the French fans. That was a tough ride by a rider who's growing in stature and growing in confidence, race by race, isn't he? But he's your Moto2 World Championship leader. It's been 5 points.